like I always have to like, what was it, kill your babies? What's that term or whatever?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I always have to like.
Again with the baby death.
Baby, just a baby death episode.
Just a baby death episode. You better title it that.
Yeah, the title is Killing Ducklings.
Yeah. Done. And welcome back to
Waiting to Drive. 3 dudes sitting in a room talking about dicks.
What is that from?
Bryce. Huh?
That is our good friend Tony Giraldi Brown. My name is Sergio Lopez, and
I'm an Academy of Art University in San Francisco graduate. Sucker.
What? Who's that?
Yeah, where'd that come from?
I'll give you the history on internet memes later.
Awesome. I'm Josh Loucheur.
I'm important, and what I have to say is great.
Is that Tony again?
It is. And we got the voice you love, Leon Loucheur, on the podcast.
Oh, hell no. What's up, dog?
What's up?
What's up, buddy?
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Thanks for coming back on the show.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Hell yeah. We're doing this time we're in your casa.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which is pretty awesome.
Yeah,
It
it's a
is.
nice place.
Hell yeah. How long have you been in here?
We moved in about 8 years ago, something like that.
Nice.
And, it's an old house. It's like 120 years old.
Yeah.
And it's all original. The owners kept it in real nice shape. So
Super nice.
Yeah,
I'm
that's good.
super into it.
Yeah.
I geek out on a lot of the stuff with
Yeah.
the things in it.
it feels historical, doesn't it? It's got a lot
does.
of
It
wood.
does,
and
yeah.
Lived
details
in.
and- yeah, exactly.
In a good way.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. So we had you back on. We'll just cut straight into it. Because you have been working your butt off. Sorry for the vulgar language.
Man, cut that.
Cut that. On a show, and it's coming up.
It's coming fast.
It's
yeah.
right around the corner.
3 weeks away, as
Hell
a matter
yeah.
of fact. Not that I'm counting, but yeah, it's coming quick.
So we were like, let's pull him away from work,
Yeah.
so that he gets even farther behind.
I like that.
For our benefit.
No, I need to get away, man. I mean, you can only spend so many hours alone in your studio. You know
sure.
what I mean? You got to talk to people and
Yeah.
pull out. So
Yeah.
it feels good to have you guys here and just to be chilling doing this.
Hell yeah. Yeah. So how long has this show been in the works?
I got the show about a year ago. And then, man, I just basically, handled my other business for like the first 3 months. And then I spent a couple months kind of trying to concept the show, figure out what it was going to look like.
Right.
I knew I wanted it to be different than old work. So, I just put the time in brainstorming and jotting down ideas and revising and trying to fine tune these new ideas. And that burned up a fair amount of time. So,
Right.
I ended up painting about 6 months on the show. So it's kind of weird when you look back and think, man, I had a year. And somehow I only worked 6 months on it, but it's so good.
I don't think anybody ever starts a show like the
Right
day
away.
after
Yeah,
they
for
learn
sure.
they're doing it.
And if they do, they're my hero.
Yeah.
Right.
Man.
Better man than I.
Yeah. So the show is called Pick Your Poison.
Yeah, pick your poison. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
And it is
It's an exploration of attractive poisons seen through the kind of prism of alcohol, tobacco, and sugar being the three offenders.
Okay.
It's kind of like a satirical spoof on advertising, and it's kind of I think of it like a pop tragic comedy. Like it's really meant to be kind of a curveball. It's very aesthetically, I just went for something really beautiful. It's like botanical and floral
Right.
and colorful, and there's these kind of beautifully rendered animals. But then the twist is, they're like smoking cigarettes, smoking a blunt. So it's kind of that change up idea where you're leading the viewer in one direction and then just like snapping them back in the other.
right. Yeah. I mean, it when you explain it, it definitely reads that way. It feels. I mean, first of all, the color choices and the palettes you choose kind of draw your eye to it, almost like an advertisement does.
Right.
And it does have these like design elements to it that kind of capture that feel of a advertisement in a weird way. But then you do pick up on the like the darkness kind of the narrative. I think the title of the show hints at that.
Yeah.
And the main subject of the paintings kind of, I think, add to that like idea, because it's obviously seems like a thing that's not good.
Exactly. Yeah, it's kind of ambiguous that way. I mean, these substances, cigarettes, alcohol,
Right.
sugar, I mean, we love them, they're fun. I mean, we're drinking beers right now, So I didn't want to like demonize them, because it's as much a demonization of the products as it is a celebration of them, because, I'm presenting something that is bad for you, but you want it anyway.
Right.
And that's the whole idea behind it. So I'm not just trying to take a one-dimensional view of it.
Right.
I'm sort of assessing out that nuance of that inner conflicted feeling of, like, damn, I shouldn't drink that soda, but damn, it sounds like it'd be good just to have it, So that's kind of the idea behind it. And it just reflects my own experiences in life. And, it's like you start out just raging, life is a big party. And then, that you can't keep that going
Talk for
the rest of your life. Yeah. I mean, I still try, and don't get me wrong. But it's just a reflection on some of the choices we make that are also maybe not the best for us in the long term.
For sure. At the same time, I mean, there is something about the pick your poison, which is kind of like, I think the saying is in regard to like, everyone's going to die. You're going to die from something.
Yeah. Okay.
Maybe pick a poison that you enjoy enough to like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think I always thought that way with like those decisions. It's like, you're going to die. Make sure you're not worried about prolonging the death so much that you don't enjoy anything in life.
I see.
Yeah.
You're more focused on the pick component as opposed to the poison component, is what you're saying. Yeah. I think that's a great interpretation. I mean, that's definitely part of it,
So when you get this show, right, and you're like, all right, I got to figure out kind of the theme or the overall idea that I want to portray in the show. Did the image kind of come first, or did the whole idea of like, poisons as a subject matter?
I mean, the way it was born was more, I really felt a strong drive to embrace like an element of comedy in my work. I was really tired of being serious.
Right.
And I feel like I've been on a journey artistically and probably personally as well, where I'm trying to take myself and things around me gradually less seriously.
Good move.
Well, not just abandoning the critique of the world, but just not being so attached to it in such a heartfelt way, maybe.
Yeah.
Or maybe finding some dark comedy in it, So that was really the seed of it, is I just wanted to pursue some new work that had comedy.
That's cool.
And,
I like that.
And, it seemed like a pretty obvious choice in that, I had a lot of experience painting. I already was painting birds, and I already was painting birds doing human things, It just was a different sort of a remix. So it's still pretty consistent with what I had experience with, but just flipping it, making it more explicitly like something that everyone loves, right? Like everyone sees bird paintings and they're like, oh, this is so amazing,
Right. Yeah.
And that's something I kind of wanted to spoof and poke a little fun at too.
That's awesome. Want to sell a painting, put a bird in it.
Exactly. Like, I'm going to give you what you want, but then I'm going to, slap some shit on top of it. And,
Yeah, that's awesome. I like that a lot. That's cool.
It's funny you bring that up. A few months ago, person I know posted something. He wrote why on his Facebook. He was making a sort of observation, I noticed a lot of women paint birds, and it became this whole thing where some people got defensive about it, and then other people are trying to explain it. But what came out of the discussion itself was just like, well, a lot of people paint birds, not men and women. It's like, why? Like, what are these symbols? Like, what are people drawn to about birds? Like, what do they symbolize to people, both as like what they actually are, and then like what they represent as what they mean to people in their life.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the element of flight is obviously one right off the top.
I think there's a freedom to birds.
Yeah, that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, and it's kind of a built-in narrative, the ability to go wherever you want to do, to kind of, there is that like built-in narrative for birds, I think, that a lot of people kind of are attracted to.
Yeah.
Of freedom.
Yeah.
Even putting them in a cage, like that says something too.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, that's powerful too. I mean, yeah, and you wake up in the morning in spring and it's the sound. Oh, wow.
Good going, Sergio.
Party foul, Sergio.
I told you he likes to spill. Watch out for this guy.
It's not a spill.
Do you have a sippy cup?
I should have gotten him a straw.
Saving turtles' lives.
Yeah. Birds are fun. I mean, birds like to whistle, fucking fly. You know what I mean? You're right. They do represent some sort of we relate them to spring. We relate them to renewal. And they have a very positive energy to them. And I think that's why people relate to bird paintings so much. But you're right. I mean, you got landscapes, you got portraits, you got bird paintings. Right. I mean, there's sort of that lexicon of very agreeable art that people are drawn to.
On a side note, birds are fucking assholes. You ever see them fight each other?
Oh, I have. They do. Yeah.
Damn, they're brutal,
evil, aren't they? Yeah.
They are fucking. They murder each other.
Yeah, they fuck each other up for sure.
All the time. You ever seen that eagle kill a duck or whatever, or something like that, or a falcon kill a duck? It's literally a duck walking and then a duck not there anymore.
Oh yeah. Oh shit.
And you're like slow mo, and you're like, okay, well, holy shit.
I have this memory when I was when my daughter was first born. She was probably about 3 or 4 months old, and you're just in this really like tender phase of life where you have this new baby or first time parent. You know, it's like everything feels so meaningful and touching, and so it was dusk, and I took her out for a walk, and we were in the stroller, and when we first passed the little pond in front of the De Young, there was about 12 or 13 little ducklings, little baby ducklings swimming in there, and everyone was taking pictures of them. Oh, so cute. And then when I came back, it was later in the evening, and it was getting dark. Everyone had already left. And the fucking crows were just massacring the little baby ducklings.
Holy shit.
And the mother and father ducks were like trying to defend them without success. And I came back the next day, there was one baby duckling left.
Wow.
Yeah. And people were going, like, all the tourists were like, oh, look at the little duckling. I was thinking, man, you guys don't even know the PTSD that motherfucker has. Yeah, it was actually a very poignant moment because it was juxtaposed against like that feeling of wanting to care for my own.
We don't use the J word on this podcast anymore.
Oh, that's right. I forgot. Damn it. I forgot. I have to give you money now, don't I?
Put in the dollar jar.
Sorry, I know. You know, ever since I heard you say that, I realized how often
I know that's exactly
I use that word.
Started making fun of that. Yeah.
It's like hard to talk about art without using that word.
It really is. Well, what can you do? Yeah. But holy shit, that's a dark story.
It is. Sorry. Starting on a light note.
Nature is a brutal person.
For sure. Yeah, that's the reality.
Yeah, we all love cute little things, but nature gives zero fucks about cute little things.
Zero.
Except for that they think they're delicious.
Do you guys follow that Nature is Metal on Instagram?
I can't.
Oh, you can't.
I did for a while.
I don't know.
It's just brutal nature things.
Okay.
You want to see a deer get eaten from the ass up? Subscribe.
Yeah. I can't. I used to watch like kook slams and stuff like that. I don't know if you know about that. It's
kook slams?
Kook slams. It's like people getting, fucked up, like jumping off cliffs or paragliding and shit like that.
Can't do that either.
Yeah.
At first you watch, you're like, wow, this is fascinating. But then it just becomes dark,
Yeah.
Real quick.
I think it makes you fear life a little bit more, which I think in a way is probably good, but then you don't want to be that person stuck in a room never wanting to walk out of your house.
True. You know what? I stopped listening to podcasts for a while for that reason because I got super hooked on the true crime podcast.
Oh yeah.
There's so many good ones out there, and I would just binge them. Like 16 episodes in a row.
Sure.
And then I just would think like someone was hiding around every corner waiting to murder me and my family. So I had to stop.
Ignorance is bliss sometimes.
Yeah, for sure.
And I don't even know if that's ignorance. I think it just gives you a false sense of reality. You think reality is this super dangerous place where there's a murder around every corner.
Right.
But then it's like, if you think about it, how many people do you know that have been murdered? And you're
exactly.
And how many people do you know? It's like, come on, like it's such a low phenomenon, I think. Yeah. That we all are afraid of, but it's because the news and certain things like that, they make
They
it
blow it
seems because you pay attention to those terrible stories.
Absolutely. You know, the crime rate since 1992 is when the violent crime rate peaked in our country.
Right.
And we're somewhere about 1/10 of the amount of violent crime as we were in 1992.
It's crazy.
And that's crazy because everywhere you hear about people talking about how dangerous and horrible things are.
Right.
It's not that they actually are, it's just that they're exposed to the news about it.
Right.
More.
And the news has that helps sell tickets pretty much. You know, they have to talk about the horror because no one's going to tune in to hear about a guy who drove home from work and got into his house perfectly fine and then went to sleep.
Yeah.
It's not worth listening to.
And also, I think the internet sort of amplifies that because it's that clickbait phenomenon.
For sure.
How do you phrase it so that people are outraged or,
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
it's a whole echo chamber, that internet thing sometimes.
it is.
But yeah, I don't know.
All right, I'll tell you guys a cool news story that I heard that I didn't know.
Let's hear it.
Because we have so much rain in California this year, there was like a huge bloom of ladybugs.
Oh.
Did you know that ladybugs fly 3,600 feet in the air? And there's fucking massive swarms of them.
Wait,
What?
3,000 feet up?
Up. Yeah. That I heard that. I saw that on the news or read it or something. And then I actually looked it up to confirm it. And it's true, man. They fucking fly 3,600 feet in the air.
Really?
And I feel like ladybugs don't get enough fucking respect. You know what I mean?
Holy shit, that's pretty impressive.
That's pretty badass, right?
3,000 feet?
Yes.
How high is what's it called? The tallest mountain, Mount Everest.
Oh, that's like, what is it, like 20,000 feet or
God
more?
damn it! I was
Yeah,
hoping
but
it
I
was
mean,
less.
I think yeah.
Way to
but I
ruin
mean,
my point.
but I think that the point is they fly 3,600 feet above the ground, whereas you're talking about elevation, like 20,000
Right.
feet in elevation above sea level. So it's a difference between sea level and wherever the ground is below the ladybugs.
All right. Holy shit, that's impressive,
Yeah.
especially for those little chubsters.
I know. I thought they were like weaklings.
Yeah. They have those little wings and the chubby bodies. You're like, they can't go anywhere.
Shit.
I always feel like I have to help them all the time.
Yeah, they're like landing on you all
Yeah.
stupid.
I'm like, here, buddy. Hey, let me put you on a leaf so you can.
Fly away home.
Yeah, who fucking knew they could fly? Good God, higher than Mount Everest, some say.
Science.
I know, I love
awesome.
science stories. All right, here's another one. The amount of plastic that each of us consumes through our food and water is the equivalent of one credit card a week.
Wait, eating wise, you're talking about like
Eating and drinking, environmental contact with not poisons, with plastics, microplastics that we consume. It's the equivalent of one credit card worth of plastic a week.
Nice.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
No wonder my food's been tasting delicious.
Yeah,
recently.
cha-ching. Yeah.
Boom. Made of money.
That's it.
That's crazy. Are these facts that you learn because you have kids, or are they just like things that you stumble upon?
I just like when I hear some crazy shit, I put in my crazy shit file. Yeah, so I just have this little crazy shit file that I just pull out every now and
That's
then.
crazy.
Yeah.
I don't think I do that. There's some things that just stick in my brain and other things that don't.
Yeah.
And I have no. Like next week you could ask me something about that and be like, "What? Is that true?" Or I might have stuck. I don't know.
Yeah.
Those type of things. I don't.
Yeah, you
There's
never know what's gonna
fucking
stick.
things we talk about on this podcast, and I'm like, when did I say that?
Right.
It was me.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if you heard, but you don't like Jackson Pollock.
I remember that. I'll never forget.
All right, good.
Never forget.
Our listeners won't let you forget either.
Yeah.
Oh, what? Do you have people complain to you about it, or everyone's
No,
like,
no, it's
No.
more like it's become a joke now. Like somebody today actually sent on the Waiting to Dry, like DMs, somebody sent a picture of like some pollock they found in Chicago. So they're like,
Yeah. Torturing
just to
Josh
remind
with it?
Josh.
Yeah, I like it.
There's been one of our listeners. He'll send me like a picture of him flicking off a pollock in a museum.
Nice. Devoted fans. I like that.
Hell yeah.
Jackson Pollock? More like Jackson Bollocks. Zing!
It's not an episode with Sergio unless we play it that one time.
No, people get mad about Jackson Pollock, though, man. I feel like he's sort of the poster child for what people think about when they think about inaccessible art that's like sort of like self-masturbatory and
you
doesn't
know-
really connect.
You know what I think it is? I think it is the idea that you work hard at this craft to get good at it. And then when you see someone very successful that doesn't seem like the skill they have is worth rewarding, I think for a lot of artists that's hard to accept. It's hard to accept, like, that's not hard. We all know we could all do that. So the whole they did it first doesn't necessarily fly sometimes, at least not for me. And I think that's what it is. I think it's the we work hard at this craft to get good. Don't reward something that isn't good.
I see what you're saying.
I think.
Something that's not disciplined, or
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it has its own kind of discipline that we're just not aware of, though.
Maybe.
I mean, Pollock painted for a lot of fucking years before he started doing that splashy shit. So
Yeah.
maybe his practice was just a different kind of practice than ours.
I don't know. Like, I mean, maybe for me personally, I don't see it. And I it's not like I'm open-minded to maybe something I didn't know about it, but as far as I can see, I don't accept why I should like it. But
Like the outcome isn't strong enough for you to give it the benefit of the doubt.
Well, I don't think the outcome is strong enough for most people. I think that's why there's a bunch of other reasons for why he's genius. You know, I think it's like, oh, he was the first to do it, and all these other things that make him a genius at art rather than the art itself. And I think, I don't know, for me, I just lost my train of thought. It's what was the question you asked?
Oh, just the outcome of it isn't good enough.
Yeah, I mean, just the outcome,
it.
I don't think is good enough for most people.
Yeah.
I think that's why we draw at straws for why it is good. I think
It takes too much like justifying to.
and I think Nate Van Dyke said it really well. He said, if you see that painting on the sidewalk and you wouldn't grab it, I don't think it's good.
Yeah.
You know? And I think that's a very well put point of like why I think a good determining fact for why you would think art is good is because you see it on the side of the road for free.
Yeah, even out of context, it still holds up.
Yeah, I mean, I see what you're saying, but maybe the deficiency is your own, that you don't understand how to view it, you know, like how I was watching, was that Simon Schama art? You know who that dude is?
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, you know, anyways, he's talking about Rothko, who's
Right.
a really interesting dude. And basically, you know, I'd always seen Rothko's paintings and I was like, it's just a flat surface with a stupid fucking square. But the point that he made was that Rothko wanted you to view his painting from 12 inches away. So you're really actually meant to stand right in front of it and sort of allow yourself to be absorbed in it. It's just a slower arc of appreciation. It's not that instant pop, you know? And so maybe you're going to blow past that painting on the street, but maybe there's a secret that it has to offer that you're just not seeing because you're approaching it with your own prejudices.
But even in that context, I think Rothko being one of the people that maybe when I was younger, not being into it, and I've come to appreciate it way more than I ever did as a young artist.
Yeah, same.
Pollock, I don't know if he specifically applies to the Rothko model. Like, I think, I'm not saying like all abstract is shit. I just don't buy the Pollock's like narrative that is supposed to sell me on the work.
Yeah.
And maybe it's a thing where I had to exist in that time period to get it, because there is art like that. There is art that is very specific to the time.
Absolutely.
So if you listen to it, like if you listen to a song that was super groundbreaking at the time, you might listen to it now and go like, wow, that sounds bad and dated.
Yeah. You ever hear the Beatles?
Yeah.
Mighty.
Not a fan?
I'm sure they were awesome in 1972.
See?
Exactly.
And that's the point, is like maybe Pollock is something that I can't appreciate because I didn't grow up in the time. And for an art historian, that might be okay to say he's a genius. But for me, I can't enjoy the art because I'm not alive at that point.
I see what you're saying.
You know what I mean? So
it
like,
doesn't stand the test of time in that way.
Yeah. So the song could be shit right now. That doesn't mean it was shit 20 years ago. But if I listen to it now, it's shit.
Yeah, you're gonna change
Yeah.
the channel. Yeah,
And that doesn't mean that they didn't help music grow.
yeah,
And I get that point of view. I just don't like the song.
yeah,
That's how I feel about Pollock.
yeah.
Right.
I mean, I'm not a huge Pollock fan either. It seems like a lot, like the way he overlays the paint, it just seems like static to me. Like there's not any kind of design to it, or maybe
Yeah.
the design is beyond my perception. Kind of like getting back to maybe a music metaphor. You know, like maybe if you listen to some kind of like super fast speed metal, you're just going to be like, fuck, that just sounds like a bunch of crazy chaotic noise.
Right.
But if you listen to speed metal for 15 years, then all of a sudden you're pulling out different like elements that maybe
Or if
were
you slow
invisible.
that down, maybe all of a sudden you're like, holy shit, that's very talented.
Yeah, right. I mean, I don't know. I agree with you. I mean, on the surface of it, I've never taken the time to try and understand Pollock. I thought the movie about him was really fucking dope. And that's really the extent of my experience with him because his work just looks like a bunch of static to me.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think I don't want to like make it seem like I'm just sitting around fucking hating on Jackson Pollock. It's just where we have a podcast where we talk about
I like
art.
it. Yeah,
so
I like it.
It ends up being a thing where it's
that's
like
your
shtick. And he is the like easiest person to draw to.
Oh, yeah.
As like, oh, who do I hate? Jackson Pollock.
Well, everyone knows who he is.
Yeah.
You know?
Right. Yeah.
So
Yeah. Who do I hate? Soldier Boy. You know, like
who do you? What's a music that you hate that everyone really likes? Seems to like.
I'm not the biggest fan of country music.
I said everyone likes.
There's a good amount of people that love country.
Is there?
Oh,
I
yeah.
think so.
More than you would think.
Yeah, you guys live in Santa Rosa though, so you probably experience it.
I guarantee.
Probably more so than here. But
I guarantee there's a shitload of country listeners in San Francisco.
No, there
yeah.
is. I know there is.
Yeah. When I lived in San Jose, they used to have a country concert, and the traffic you would get on the freeway from the amount of trucks that are way too big to live in San Jose were ridiculous. It was crazy. Every time you see a big ass truck, just know probably listens to a little country.
Yeah, for sure.
No diss. I mean,
I'll diss country. I mean,
like it or not, I mean, I'm perfectly fine not liking. I also think it's a bit of like life experience sometimes. You know what I mean?
no, I think it's cool as long as it's before like 1995. I think country is be okay. Country is. I mean, I don't listen to it a lot. Sometimes I'll be on a road trip and I'll stop in a fast food restaurant and they'll be playing country, and it just sounds like the worst pop music to me.
Yeah.
I mean, I heard a country song, they were fucking rapping, dude. Rednecks don't fucking rap. Get the fuck out of here. You know, unacceptable.
Yeah. I mean, but you know, to each their own. I just think it's garbage for the most part. But there is a small amount of country I've been listening to that I don't even know if it's considered country. I think it's considered like folk, but it's like very borderline.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah,
Oh yeah,
I can dig that.
indie country is cool.
I don't know what that is.
It's like there's like a genre of country which is like not redneck pop country. God damn, I can't, and I don't even know enough about.
Yeah.
I'm drawing a blank on the fucking name of this.
I'm
band.
also not a big fan of like EDM,
What's EDM?
like electric dance
dance
music.
music.
Yeah, it's not my cup of tea, but that's because I feel like you have to be in a certain environment to like really for that music, and I'm not really into those environments in general. Like the club scenes, that's not my jam. So people have fun. Go,
Yeah, it's
go
cool.
pump that fist.
It's cool. Do your thing. Do your thing.
Beat that beat up.
Yeah, I have no beef with any. Listen to whatever you listen to, like whatever art you like. That doesn't mean I can't hate it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, and if someone doesn't like the music I'm into, it's not my job to convince them otherwise.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't get hurt over it either. But
Yeah, but I
it's
still.
fun. I mean, it's fun.
Yeah.
I hear it. I mean, one of the really kind of like fun pastimes when you're an artist is talking shit about other art. You know? But I think a good many people take it too far. I mean,
I think so.
they get caught up in the fun of talking shit, and I mean, I think you still have to maintain a sense of open-mindedness towards the possibility that something is over your head or just not connecting with you because you haven't had that prerequisite experience in life.
Yeah, I agree. I think sometimes people go like it's over your head before they have the ability to explain why it's good. You know what I mean?
For sure.
I just saw something online. It was like someone I was reading through comments and there was these two people fighting each other, and then one of the guys just wrote like, "You're just not smart enough to know what I'm talking about," and the other guy was like, "Oh, sorry, you're the smartest person alive." But it was like this weird thing where it's like you're trying to win a battle by just calling the other one stupid and saying you're smarter than them, but you don't have the ability to explain your point. You're just going straight to like, it's over your head.
Right.
Right.
And it's like, if it's over my head, you should have the ability to explain why it's good. Language isn't that, you should have the ability to explain it.
Absolutely. I mean, I agree that you should have the ability to explain it, but you also should have the ability to delay making a decision.
Right.
Or to just say, I don't know. I don't.
Right. I mean, I think you can have your initial reaction. Like you're like, "Oh, this ain't my shit," but I think you should leave yourself open to be persuaded otherwise.
Yeah, that's a good way to say it. And I mean, we all have, since we do it ourselves, we all have our own convictions. We all have our own ideas and feelings and passion.
Mm-hmm.
We're passionate about it because it's what we dedicated our lives to.
Right.
So, yeah, I get it. The only dismissal I don't like is that there's sort of like this kind of, amongst people who aren't really into art, they sort of like to bash on like someone like Pollock.
Right.
Or, there's that old saying, I don't know how old it is, but it's like modern art equals I could have done that plus, yeah, but you didn't. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like, if you could have done it, then why aren't you have that Pollock money? You know what I'm saying?
I think there is a portion of art, though, that they have a different pursuit rather than creating good art. They have a how to increase value of works. And I think there is a clear path of artists that go down that route. And I think a lot of times artists who are in this for the pursuit of creating good art sometimes look at those artists and go, "Fuck you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You don't get to say you're good art."
I agree.
And I get to bash on it because you're in a market where you're just, it's a stock market of art.
It is. It's the New York blue chip art market. Yeah.
And I think a lot of times the modern art falls into that category.
I agree.
And I think that's where people get a little angry. They go like, you guys get to pretend that this is somehow genius and we don't get it. And you create all this value here.
Yeah.
And there's nothing being said worth value, right? It's just monetary value.
Yeah.
And we're just supposed to accept that it's all over all of our heads. But you can't explain why.
Right.
And I think that's where the issue comes into, where people start getting upset and start saying this isn't good art and dictating those things because, they feel like it's belittling them. Yeah. It's and it is. And for monetary value.
Yeah, it is.
And you don't have to accept that. And I think that's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
I think I'm not saying everyone acts that way. And I think even sometimes probably the artist has no control over that. I remember hearing about that recently. Some lady from like Africa, some African artist lady, she was creating work and this marketplace decided they're going to take her work and create value from it. And they did it.
Oh yeah. That was in that movie, the documentary, what's it called? What's it called? The Price of Everything. I think that's where that story came from.
I haven't seen that yet still, but
but yeah, she's a artist from Africa who now lives in New York, and you see on the documentary, like, because it's about an auction house, and you see her live, like watching on her computer, the value of her work keep going up and up, and then at the end you find out, it's actually like an art flipper who bought it. So it's like somebody who's just trying to artificially inflate the price just so that they could just resell it right away.
Right.
I mean, so was that a good thing for her or a bad thing then?
No. Overall, it's usually a bad thing when an art flipper kind of gets a hold of your thing, because they'll artificially drive up the price. So the next time you put your work up for sale, the people will either I mean, if people keep buying it, then they didn't artificially inflate it for that price. It actually just becomes that
it fucks
price.
with your price point, basically.
Right? Yeah. Right. So the next time somebody puts it out, they're like, "Oh, well, you can't sell it for that price because somebody else bought it just to drive up that price. It's not your real price."
Yeah.
What they jacked it up for.
It's like the penny stock scam. You bump up a penny stock by hyping it up. Everyone buys it. By the time it gets to a certain point, you all get rid of it, and it crashes down back to a penny or whatever. And then everyone that was a part of the scam makes the money, and that stock gained nothing from it.
Right.
But that's the shitty end of art that none of us are part of, and I don't think we want. I think that just the reason we got to this is just because sometimes shit that we don't think is good seems to be valued at millions of dollars, and we don't understand. And I think those markets, a lot of times, are the reason why. But what can you do other than talk a lot of shit on a podcast?
That's cool.
Yeah,
it's nice to have an outlet.
But yeah, what do you think about like the whole, like sometimes you just go into an art show and a piece just immediately calls out to you. You like it because there is that thing where like a piece can grow on you, or it can be more than that initial first layer of attraction, or maybe you don't like it at all, and all of a sudden something clicks and you're like, wow, this shit is awesome.
Yeah.
Even styles or artists, an artist that you're just not that into, and all of a sudden you're like, oh.
It's like you get it or something.
Yeah.
Or something clicks.
Yeah. Maybe you just grew as an artist and now you're starting to understand. Because there's certain things with art where, like if I look at a young artist, sometimes I can see where I was in my journey and see similarities, the moody young kid or whatever,
the young hipster walking the streets of Mission.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then you grow a little and you think like, you look back at that art and that shit, now my shit now is dope.
Yeah.
And then usually you look at the ones kind of who are doing things maybe a little better than you or a lot better than you, and you're like, but they're the fucking shit. And then you might gain skills or whatever, or maturity.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden the work you thought was great now is or whatever.
I think that phenomenon is super fascinating because it goes to show how deep into like sort of denial you have to be to become a successful artist. Right? I mean, it's like this push and pull between being a realist and because you're like, oh man, like I suck. I'm not as good as so-and-so. Like, man, I wish I was good as them. But you're also creating art and going like, this is fucking good. Like I should keep doing this. And that takes a lot of self-denial. I mean, I'm sure if you look at your old work from when you first started out, now you're probably looking
super
at
dope.
God, this is, yours probably was, Josh.
No.
So yeah, it's a weird thing. I mean, you have to be humble, but you also have to have some kind of like, you have to be sure of yourself in some weird way, even when maybe the material isn't there to warrant being sure of yourself. Right.
I think it's interesting too, because I think when you're young, you have like the most confidence in your shit.
Yeah.
Like you're the shitty, it's your shittiest work, but you're also like, I am the best motherfucker alive.
And all your friends are telling you that too, right?
Yeah. Cause they all suck. Yeah. They're still doing Stussies.
Yeah. Exactly.
And you're like, look at my shit, bro.
Yeah.
It is that weird thing. And it's, I don't know, when you're aware of it, the more you're aware of that whole like process of realizing that you're not good, the more you're like, I must not be good right now. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? You start like losing that confidence and going like, I think I'm okay, but I can always get better. And I have no idea in 10 years from now, when I look at my shit now, how I'll feel about it.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's what makes you keep getting better. I mean, because the people that don't have that, who just stop at thinking that they're great because their friends told them, they don't evolve. I mean, I remember I used to have a girlfriend that would always try and be like, oh, you're so, I was like 22 years old, and I would look at other artists and be like, God, I fucking suck. I'm so far to go. And she would just be like, you have no confidence in yourself. You need to like more confident and you're badass and this and that, you know. But in my mind, I was thinking, you really are out of touch with reality, because I see what that person is doing. And like, but that's what made me really dig deep and practice and go sit at my desk for hours and to draw and dedicate myself. It was because I really wanted so desperately to be good, you know.
I think one of the interesting things is when you're in this pursuit of being good, then you realize that you are pursuing something that most people can't even tell the difference of.
Absolutely.
And it's like at some point or even earlier when we were talking about the work you're working on now, you're like, I'm trying to find a way to make things that aren't necessary to render more simplified and like an aesthetic, like to add aesthetic to the painting without having to painstakingly draw and render out everything. And it's those things, I think, when you realize like, who am I killing myself for this like 1% better on, you know, and there is that like give and take of like, I have to reevaluate. Once you get to, I think, a certain point, you reevaluate why you would take time on a thing that no one else, you know, is going to care about.
Yeah. I mean, it's like you start out sucking in your career and then you try. And then you get to a point where the only way to advance is by stopping trying so hard.
Right.
It flips it. It reminds me kind of how they say like the Zen monks, you know, it's like in order to attain enlightenment, you can't want enlightenment. You know, you have to have no idea of gaining or advancing, but you still have to sit there and fucking meditate for 8 hours a day. You know what I mean? It's kind of the same idea. I mean, how are you going to rack up 10,000 hours of meditation without trying?
Right.
But really to gain access to whatever higher enlightenment that is, you really have to have no sense of gaining or wanting. You know, it's like a catch-22, which of course, man, life is fucking loaded with catch-22s.
Yeah, and then sometimes a fucking crow can come out and eat all your goddamn babies. You know what I mean?
What?
All I'm saying is life is a weird place where you can struggle and catch your 10,000 hours of meditation and a car can wipe you out in a second.
Yeah, that's true, man.
It's like a weird, it's a weird thing.
I think about that like some old man that gets confused and like drives his car the wrong way on the freeway and kills a bunch of people. It's like that dude could have had a fucking great life. He could have done so many beautiful things.
Right.
But you know, he's always going to be the fucking dude that drove his car on the freeway and killed 10 people.
Defined by that moment.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. You can waste your whole life in a studio painting and be one step away from a masterpiece and lights go out, you know,
and that happens.
Fucking crow eats your baby.
I see what you're saying. Yeah. And that happens all the time. You're right. I mean, think of all the unsung, you know, masters that just were one painting away or for whatever reason, just didn't get there, you know? Yeah. I mean, circumstance has to be on your side. Or you could be living in a country where there's no art market, where maybe there's not a lot of money, and it's not even an option, you know? I mean, to do what we're doing, you have to live in, well, you don't have to, but it helps to live in a country like ours where there's money and we have like we're able to be frivolous with our time and make something like art as opposed to just, you know, trying to come up with money.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, what does that represent? You know, like I heard the statistic to be in the top 1% of global earners, top 1% of most wealthy people in this world, you have to earn $25,000 a year or more. That puts you in the top 1% globally. So, you know, like how amazing is it that we are part of that 1%?
Right.
You know, we can dedicate our lives to making art.
But it sucks that we live in California.
God, it's
How do I
horrible,
make
isn't it?
that 25,000 and live in a country where that shit can buy me something?
Yeah, right. Yeah, well, that's true. It is relative. So I guess that figure is skewed that way, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, it sucks in that point, but I get what you're saying. Yeah, we live in a very fucking wealthy country, and there are some benefits, some large benefits we get from. I mean, even the fact that this country has a large emphasis on the arts and entertainment, you know, like those things is such like a beacon as far as America, you know, people that I think it allows us other things. It allows people that are interested in those things to kind of seek them out, not necessarily pursue them, but the people that are into them seek them out to maybe help financially fund these things in America, where I don't know how common that is. And I know John Wentz talked about how, or maybe it's Delphine, talked about how France is like, art isn't necessarily like a job or anything. It's kind of like a thing you do on the side or something like that. Which is a large benefit to us.
Yeah. And I think artists in other countries, perhaps, that are in that situation, they might come to the United States to pursue that. I mean, like Delphine did for a while, you know?
Yeah.
So, and I think that's been a great benefit for our country through the years, is that people who are smart and hardworking and creative come here to make it. So we've had that tremendous benefit of attracting people, which, you know, I'm assuming is not quite as, the pull probably isn't as strong these days, but that's a whole other topic.
Yeah. But yeah.
Anyways, all right.
So did we solve something?
I think we did.
I think we did. We did it all.
We did.
Figured it out. All right, kids, go do some more art. Yeah, I don't know.
What did tell me what your like early drawings look like? Like,
I don't know.
Paint a verbal picture. What were you drawing?
Moody shit. A lot of, I think I told this before, but I used to do this like guy hanging in a house, and I thought it was so like smart because
I think this was episode 1. We talked about this.
I put like a window in the thing, and I was like, that's because it was called like Brain Dead. It was this drawing I did over and over. It was supposed to be like the hanging man was the brain.
Okay.
And then the window was like the window to his soul, which is his eyeballs.
Symbolism.
And,
That's deep, man.
And I had all these like things in the room that represented like your senses, like a stinky cheese for like smell or something like that. It was like all these like bad things.
You have like the little squiggles coming off the top.
I guarantee I did. But it was things like that, you know, like such like over the top, like emotional, like like against like everyone's brain dead, man.
Yeah, I see.
Wake up. You know,
zombies, bro.
Yeah,
sheeple everywhere.
There's a lot of brain power in this room.
So yeah, that was kind of like my stuff.
All right, Sergio, what about you? Let's get you in on this.
I actually used to draw a lot of stories about just like toys and stuffed animals that I had. Like I created like little worlds for them to kind of inhabit. Like all my, like I used to, when I was a little kid, like I was known to just have a lot of stuffed animals around because like aunts and stuff would give them to me. And so I came up with, they all had different names and stuff, and they all interacted with each other. They all had like different personalities. So I would like draw basically comic books based on their lives that I made up for them.
I see. It was like an early Toy Story.
Kinda. Yeah.
How about you?
Oh, I mean, I don't know how far back you want to go, but yeah, I mean, initially...
I'm talking high school. What were you talking, Sergio?
Oh, high school? There was a lot of copying anime and shit.
Sergio's in high school with all his stuffed animals on his bed. Okay, Mr. Snuggles, now you're going to shoot.
That's not that far off, but yeah.
No, stuffed animals were the shit, man. I used to have tons of stuffed animals.
Did you?
Oh, when I was a little kid, absolutely.
Yeah.
I loved them. I used to be like I was really like skate punk kind of mentality, you know? So I always had this drawing that I would do, which was a dude with a huge head, and the face would be all like crazy contorted. And then in the background, there'd be all these like atomic bombs going up. That was my thing. Atomic bombs and a big head dude. That was what my drawing. Yeah, that was my jam.
Yeah. I think was like if you had like because like for me, if I think about my high school art shit, I'm like, I was copying like Barry McGee, like this lady artist named Tiffany Bozick, and then Dave Kinsey. Those are probably like my three like.
Did you just refer to her as a lady artist?
Yeah. Because they're not as funny.
Sorry. Gotcha.
Gotcha.
Better mind my P's and Q's for the rest of this talk. Yeah, Barry McGee, man. Damn, when I first came to San Francisco in 98, I mean, that was already kind of towards the tailing off point, but there was still a lot of his work up, man. And it would just be like the craziest fucking spot. Like, how did he lean off that ledge and like dangle by his fingernails and paint this thing like with technical precision, like so fucking crispy.
That's what
Fades.
was always amazing.
Oh, man.
His work. It was just always done well.
Yeah.
No matter the environment.
Absolutely.
I don't understand that.
Yeah.
But yeah. So if I look back at my old work, like when I was in high school, I'm like, yeah, well, that was just me biting those three artists and trying to like do my version of that.
Yeah.
You know? Do you guys have that? Do you guys like have like a artist, or I know MJ, like if you look at her old sketchbooks, it's like a shitload of Crayola that she was just, it was just like really bad drawing. And then like you turn the picture like, oh, this one's good. This looks good. You copying Crayola.
It helps. I mean, that's what self-taught is, you know.
Yeah.
We call it self-taught, but really we're just looking at other people.
For sure.
Monkey see, monkey do.
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't know who's the name of the guy who did Dragon Ball Z, but definitely copying that guy.
Nice. Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah.
Nerd
Copied a lot of that
alert.
shit, yeah. For sure.
That's cool.
Yeah, I was doing figurative art, and then I went to Spain, and I just got so, like, this is like 2005 or 6, and I got so geeked on Miro. And then I came home and I just started like doing like a Miro imitation for like a fucking year.
Oh, really? Wow.
And then I went to see Blaine Fontana at Upper Playground in 2007. And that show totally like just, I was like, fuck abstract art. I want to do what this dude's doing.
For sure.
So that was the person
cool.
for me that really liked.
Blaine Fontana?
Yeah.
He was cool.
He was cool. I talked to him at the show. I, bought his book and shit, and he signed it and drew a little picture in it for me. He was cool,
Nice.
man. Yeah.
That's cool.
So, yeah, thanks to him for letting me
Be
be a
influenced.
wannabe. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. Is Blaine Fontana still doing it?
Yeah, he lives in Portland.
Okay. I feel like I haven't seen him in a long time. Like his work. I don't know him.
I don't know if he's doing, I don't know. I have no idea. He doesn't really, I don't see him post a ton of artwork. I do see him occasionally post artwork or a mural or something like that. But I mean, his production back in the day was like fucking mind-boggling. I used to go to his website and just be like, how does this dude do this? You know?
Yeah.
But who knows what his circumstance is, or
Yeah. I'm always curious about that. When there's like an artist that was killing it, they've kind of like disappeared. I'm always like, did they just make enough money?
yeah, or maybe they're doing more commission work, or they're getting those fat contracts from private companies.
Yeah, probably that.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Or they've just got their private collectors that they've just,
Right.
they're just
Dealing
okay with
directly
dealing
with.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe that's what it is. I need to live that life.
Damn, I wish I wasn't so active.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
Exactly. I know that's the weird pursuit that I'm obsessed with now, is just the whole like figuring out this weird puzzle of doing art full time. It's an interesting thing that I'm frustrated with, but also kind of enjoy, because it's a huge like learning experience. Like, and I've heard artists talk before where they're like, yeah, like I wish I would have learned this business aspect, like when I was pursuing art like years ago, and they didn't realize how important it was. And I've heard artists say like, oh, if you want to be a good artist, go to business school and shit like that. And I was like, fuck off.
Yeah.
Go do some art. And now I'm like, I see what they meant in a way. Like, I'm like, oh, there is like, I don't even know if I agree with him, but I think there is the ability to be creative in the business aspect of work.
Yeah.
That can be enjoyable if you think about it in a creative way.
Yeah, I think like the problem with the business school like approach is that if you really face the reality of a business plan and trying to make a sufficient amount of money with your art, you know, you might not even get started because it's really not that realistic, you know.
Yeah.
So there's almost a benefit in being in denial of those things. I mean, not forever. You can't be in denial forever, but I mean, I remember I have a good friend who's a really great jeweler, and he took like a business class, and he was telling me about it. And I mean, I think it was a great thing for him, but I listened to this podcast. You know who Tim Ferriss is? He had this episode where his whole thing about making a living as an artist is that all you have to do is convince 1,000 people to give you $100 a year, and you'll make $100,000 a year. That doesn't sound that fucking hard to do.
No,
but it certainly is when you really try and do it, you know?
Yeah. That's a good point. I know. I always hear that 1,000-person.
You've heard that before?
Yeah. MJ's always talking about it. And when I hear it, I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
what the fuck?
Yeah, you got like 60,000 followers or some crazy shit, right? 80, yeah. You should be able to get 1,000 people to give you $100.
Yeah, what the fuck? I should just put a post every week that says, hey, who's trying to give me 100?
Who's got a hunch today? Oh, yeah.
Hey, who's trying to slide me 100 real quick? Just every week.
Fire up that GoFundMe.com. Yeah.
But I think that's part of it, is that you have to cue people to give you the money. Like, I don't do that ever. In fact, I'm very bad about asking people or suggesting, hey, don't you want to buy this? My default is almost inclined to be like, I almost want to dissuade them somehow. I mean, I don't let that come out of me, but that part of me is like the modest person in me is like, oh no, you know. But I think people who are really successful, they just know how to cue, like Olivia at Lunarian, you know, like I worked with her at Kaboo one year, and I just watched the way, like, people would look at a piece and she'd be like, that one's still available. You know what I mean? It just takes that like little like nudge to remind people like, oh wait, this is a retail thing. I could purchase this, you know?
Right.
Do you think for you guys it's partly because you're not relying so much on art to make your living for you? Like, if circumstances were different where art was the only way you knew how to make money, you'd figure it out quicker?
I think so.
I don't. The reason, maybe, but I think the reason is I feel bad being a salesperson. That makes, like, I feel like I almost want everyone that buys my art to like reach out and be like, oh, is this piece available? I really want it. Rather than me being like, who wants this piece? I got it. Come on, come get it. Like, that feels unnatural to me. And I don't necessarily think that's a good thing in my perspective. I think people want us to let them know what's available and help them through, make it easier for them. I just, in my head, it's almost like I don't want to be sold anything, you know? So I feel bad doing the same.
Right.
And I have to get past that mentality. So I mean, and I'm more open to it now. I'm still trying to work out those, like, the fine details of things, of not being like every post on Instagram being like, this is available, that's available, this is available.
Yeah. But I think I mean, my perception of it, and it's not like I read what's underneath every Instagram post. Usually I'm flying through it, but I don't often see, or really maybe ever see you doing that. I mean, I never think you don't. So I think of your career as kind of like, you remember when they built Facebook before they monetized it, and it was like, we don't know what this thing is yet. We're just going to keep building it up and building it up and building it up. Like, I look at you and your career, it seems like that's where you're at. You've created this thing that's, like, in my perception, very valuable. I mean, you've got a lot of eyes on you. The work is unquestionably incredibly good. And I see people always being like, how can I fucking get a piece of this art? You know? And you're, so you've definitely been very good at.
MJ, stop listening right now.
But at some point, I think that it wouldn't be bad to try and start bringing that in little by little, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I agree. I am almost exactly what you were saying. I am in a weird point where I am just building this thing, and I'm like, I think I could be successful right now running it, but I'm also like hesitant to pull that trigger because I'm trying to figure out how to do it without. It's like I want to be like, when Facebook had the little advertisement in the bottom, like left corner, or whatever. It was like the size of like a stamp on your screen. And then now they're just like full on advertisement. I want to be the little stamp. I don't want to be the full fucking screen. So to me, the internet, like the things on the internet that are super successful, I think die a bit when they do become super advertising, and you just go like, this sucks. This was something special until it wasn't.
Right.
And so I think kind of treading on those, like treading lightly in that environment and being like more conscious of like not fucking trying to pull as much money from people as possible and being a little bit more aware of that, I think is a better route to go. I might be dead wrong.
It is. No, I think you're right. But I think that the key is how are you going to introduce this like monetization of that? Because it's basic economics, right? It's like supply and demand. You're putting out no supply. There's high demand, and that's making it the value of it go up, right? Because there's scarcity. There's scarcity of the product, really non-existent because people can't purchase your art.
Right.
You got 80,000 people that are watching you thinking you're the shit. So you've just by the nature of that, you've developed a lot of value around your art. So how do you sort of like roll out monetizing that without overdoing it and like making it worthless?
Right. I mean, I have thoughts. I'm still working them out about how to do that and how to kind of, it's all like little tiny detail things. I mean, I'll talk to you about it later.
Well, it's cool. I mean, I'm impressed. I mean, both you guys I really am a big fan of both you guys. And
Thank you.
I have a lot of respect for
back at you, bro.
both your art.
I just got a piece from you. We finally completed a trade.
We did.
That's awesome. That's one of my favorite things about being an artist. Is literally getting art for pretty much free. In my head, it's free because
right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that is nice.
And my art collection just keeps growing, and I'm like,
you have a big collection.
I'm so happy about it. It's like my favorite thing. Like I just framed like a Chris Lieb I just framed.
Oh, that dude's so bad.
And I look at it all the time. I'm like, that's awesome.
Yeah. He's having a solo show, I think, right now.
Yeah, in Australia. And
that's right.
Oh, it's in Australia?
Melbourne. Okay. Anyone in Melbourne, go to...
Have you interviewed him?
Yeah.
Okay. I haven't listened to this. I got to go back and listen.
He
seems like a cool dude.
Super cool.
Yeah.
We make a lot of cat jokes.
Oh, okay. I like that.
That's hilarious. That's where Dragon Slayer came from, too. I don't know if you... maybe, Josh, maybe you don't even remember that.
I don't even remember. So bad.
Oh, it was just like this alias that we came up with for like him doing commissions because he doesn't like to do commissions. But as the thing is like, well, Dragon Slayer doesn't want to do the commissions either.
Right. Oh, that's right. Yeah.
I do remember that, I think.
Yeah, he does. He does a bunch of commission work under an alias.
Yeah.
That's right. I know. The issue with me is that my brain is always looking for the next joke. So...
You're not staying present with the...
I just am saying it and then forgetting it. It's like, who cares? Like, we laughed the end.
Yeah, right.
I don't hold on to them.
Yeah.
So it's weird when someone remembers them and they're like, joke? And I'm like,
You're like,
what are you talking about?
I do this shit every week, okay?
Yeah. Like, I black out when I just say whatever I think is funny instantly. It's actually the I am staying as present as possible. So it's like, it's like, oh, this might be funny. Say it.
Yeah.
And then said it. Okay, whatever. And then if someone remembers that, the problem is it's recorded, so people remember.
Right. Yeah. When you probably don't listen to the episodes afterwards.
Sometimes I do.
Yeah.
Sometimes I don't.
What will prompt you to listen to an episode versus not?
If like someone said something that I was like, ooh, that's something I need to like remember. There was also a time I'm actually listening to him more and more again because I stopped listening to him because I was too in my head. The issue was that I was listening to myself and then I could hear myself not listening.
Yeah, you were noticing that you were checked out.
or interrupting people or things like that. So then I'd become super aware of those things. And then I'm in my head totally when we're in the interview because I'm super aware of these things I'm doing. So I'm like, I'm not in the moment. I'm just aware of these things that throw me out. And then, so for a while I had to stop listening so that I can just remember to just, this is the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And
how often do you have something in your head that you think is really funny, but you can't find an opening to
all
say?
the time.
That's drive you nuts, right?
All the time.
And then the time passes and you know, like you can't say it without it sounding awkward. You're like, fuck,
Right.
Yeah.
I missed it.
All the time. And I think that's one of the things that I learned from this is you can just, like, now if I have something I want to say that's funny and it passes me by, I just throw it away. I'm like, oh,
Yeah, you're like, fuck it, it's gone.
Right.
There's something else around the corner that'll be funny.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I don't mind it now as much as I did in the beginning. It's more, sometimes I just sound stupid. And
I think you have to be comfortable with that to
Yeah.
do this, you know?
for sure.
You can't put too much on it because
Yeah.
then you won't do it at all.
Yeah,
agree.
it's so true. Yeah.
And for the people that are going to think I'm that I do sound stupid, they're too smart to listen to the show anyway.
Yeah, they're not listening. They already turned it off, man.
yeah.
It's a diss to all our listeners.
Yeah.
Right.
Just kidding, guys.
I like that about your first episode. It's like so bad that like you're just gonna weed out all the lightweights right off the bat.
Is that what we did? I gotta go back and listen to that first episode. I'm so terrified about how shit it is.
You thought Sergio's last name was Garcia.
That's right.
I still have to remind myself that. Not that it's Garcia. I just, whenever I write Lopez, I'm like, is
that
it
right?
Lopez or some other shit? It's, yeah.
Sometimes you got to double check.
I know. You could hear it like the last episode with Minna. Like, there's a moment where I stall a slight bit because I'm like, because her name is so weird that the X throws me off. Like, I knew her name, but then when I saw how it's spelled, it fucked my brain up so much.
Right. You couldn't get over it.
The X, yeah. So every time I'm like, her name is X. And
Tentacion.
yeah, exactly. And so in the beginning, I'm like, and today we have, and I'm like, your name's crazy, man.
Yeah, you called yourself out right off the bat.
It's just me, like, it's me giving myself time to be like, the fuck is her name?
Yeah. And
it's X, but not X.
And she was like, yeah, I've been dealing with that shit all my life.
Right. Yeah.
Handle it like a champ.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm horrible at names. I'm fucking horrible.
Do you ever have you ever made any conscious attempts to try and get better or anything like that? Or are you just like, fuck it, I suck, I'm just going to let it ride?
I've tried, the repeat a name a bunch of times.
Okay.
Sometimes they stick immediately. Usually if it's someone's, it's only a first name, and it's usually if I just associate their name with someone I know.
Yeah, that's the way to do it.
That's the only way it works. But I don't know. I don't think I know another Minna. I don't think I know another person with the first letter of the name being an X.
Yeah, that makes it tricky, doesn't it?
You don't know any Xaviers or anything?
I do know my coworker's son's name is Xavier, but I think it's EX.
Oh.
Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe, no, it is X. It is X. But that's like a coworker's kid, That's barely know.
Yeah. Did you have any trouble remembering Leon's name when you first met him?
No, I think Leon stuck immediately.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why. I don't know. I have no control over this shit.
I knew who Josh was for a long time before I met him, or for a little while.
Really?
I mean, I knew of his art,
Okay.
Thanks, buddy.
Yeah, for sure.
I know. Plus, me and Leon met at Kaboo Festival.
Yeah.
I don't know how many years it's been now, but it's like a 3-day event. So we were there just up in up in our spaces, you just see each other over and over and over again.
Yeah.
It's like speed dating or something.
It was a good bonding year. Was that the first year or the second year?
First
that was
year.
the first year. Yeah. That was the best, man. I mean, you, me, Micah, Bowen,
Monty,
Jet, Kelly.
That's the first time I met Jet Martinez too.
Sandrine was down there for that one, I think.
Oh, yeah.
It was fun. It was a fun party, man.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah, Renee was there.
Yeah, Irene, MJ, and That's all of us. We all shared an Airbnb. So we were like in this kind of nice house, and me and MJ didn't go. We like went to the beach. I went to the zoo.
Yeah.
We were like, we're here. Like,
it's
we don't like
fuck
music
it.
festivals that much.
Uh-huh.
So we're like, let's go do some other shit.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we were there enough.
I did live painting both the years I was there.
Crazy.
I don't know if that's such a good idea, honestly. I kind of have,
Yeah.
because you're painting, so you're not really interacting with people.
Right.
You know? So it seems like it's going to be fancy and people are going to be all about it, but really you have your back to everyone the whole time, you know?
I haven't done a lot of live painting, especially in a long time, but you do feel like you're a bit set decoration when you're there doing
exactly,
that.
Yeah. And especially if there's a lot of art around, that
Right.
set decoration is just one of many. You know what I mean?
Exactly, yeah.
You should have a guy in like a mask whipping you.
Yeah, exactly.
And then people be like, what the fuck is
Exactly.
going on over there? And
Yeah.
all of a sudden now you got a crowd.
I'll keep that in mind if I ever do Folsom Street Fair.
Yeah.
And you put a little hat down and you're like, there's 1,000 of you here. Hundreds, everyone.
Yeah, exactly.
That happened to me and Monty. We did the How Weird Festival, and we set up. We had our whole setup, and the person across from us was this woman doing this dick painting, where she would have the guy basically put a condom on,
Okay.
and then like rub their dick in some paint that she'd hold out like a little dish or a little palette, and then like load the tip of their dick, and then she'd grab the canvas and hold it up, and they would like do a painting, and then
So she was like Warhol. She wasn't the artist, but she could facilitate.
She was facilitator. Yeah, no doubt.
The dick.
That was the motto for sure. It was crazy, dude. The line for her dick painting was like down the fucking block, man.
God damn.
And me and Monty were just looking at that like, damn.
I had a
wrong
whole
business here.
I had a totally different idea when you started the I thought you were gonna say like, I thought it was gonna be like a whole face painting thing. Like it's almost like a glory hole. You
I
put your
see.
wiener through, and she paints it.
Paints it. That might be a thing.
And then you got like a tiger on your penis.
Yeah.
And you're like, look, Mom, butterflies.
Yeah, exactly.
And she's like, and you're like, Mom, why are you here, by the way? She's like, mind your business, son.
Right.
Go back on the iPad.
That's cool. So how was your guys' experience? This is called what?
Oh, the How Weird Festival.
How weird is that, like Folsom Fair?
It's kind of like a hippie version of that, maybe. It's a lot of people, maybe like angel wings and glitter and shit like that.
Okay.
And a lot of naked people and stuff like that.
Okay. Like a mild Burning Man or something.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a little mini Burning Man.
Okay.
There's a lot of Burning Man people there.
How was your guys' experience?
It's fun. I mean, I don't know. Working street festivals, it fucking sucks, man. I'm not gonna lie. I just can't stand it.
Yeah.
It's like my least favorite thing to do.
I've never done it.
Don't start. It's a waste of time. Every time I'm like, I swear I'm never doing that shit again. And then another one comes and I'm like, all right, I'll fucking do it.
Like I remember we went to this Japantown one, and there was a guy who his art was just kind of like, I don't know, it was like old Japanese art, and then there would be like a lifelike Pikachu running through the scene.
Okay.
Or like he would have like I don't know. It's hard to explain because it probably sounds stupid, but it was done like really interesting.
I think it sounds pretty cool.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
And he was doing prints of that, and he had such a fucking long line, and I was like, God damn, he found his thousands of people.
Yeah, for real.
Like he's making a killing.
Well, that's how it was when I was at that How Weird, it's like I had been set up. It was later in the day. I had sold maybe like $100 worth of prints, like not much. And I went down and I saw Doug. I'm like, how you doing, Doug? He's like, oh, I just sold 300 this last hour. You know what I mean? I'm like, damn, you fucking killing it out here. Why? Like
300 prints?
It's like he sold $300 like that hour, that hour alone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm just like, how? I think certain people are more successful in those venues, and I've just learned that I'm not one of the people who's successful.
Yeah, I think if they're, especially if it's like has some sort of like pop culture reference,
Yeah.
I think that helps a lot.
Yeah,
I think
if it pop or if it's like if the people that are there are kind of like hippie, it has kind of like a hippie vibe, or it has some vibe that appeals to the attendees of the event.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see, like some people, they pick up styles as like, oh, let me check this out for a second. It would be interesting to like see how good you can do if you just manipulated your style to like the festival you were at and just like just made a killing.
Yeah. Yeah. That's probably not an unrealistic idea for someone if they wanted to do that.
I'm sure, especially if you set it out like a year in advance and you made art and you just made prints.
And every
like,
year you did the same
one,
set. Yeah.
And then this festival I'm going to do like hippie stuff. This one I'm going to do like anime stuff and with like a twist and like done well. Because the guy's artwork was done really well. That was the thing that I was like, wow, these are like really cool. And he worked in pop culture reference, and it's like very subtle. Like when you look at it, you don't see a Pikachu, you just see like a yellow cat thing. Okay. And you go like, huh, that's you look at it and you're like, what is that? And you take a second look and you're like, oh, that's supposed to be a Pikachu.
Yeah. I like the reveal, man. That's a good item, a good component of painting.
Yeah, I think so. Because what it does is it pats the viewer on the back.
Yeah, for looking.
Because when they get it, they go like, oh, I see. Yeah. And then they feel like, that's cool. I got it.
Yeah, they're in the Insiders Club.
Yeah, exactly. But
it's like when you put your little fart bubbles on your models, or you just do eyelashes on one side. Remember when you did that for the Wonderland show? And I told Houston, I was like, me and Houston were looking at the painting, and I was like, oh, look, he snuck this little fart bubble, and he only put eyelashes. And then Houston saw you later. He's like, told you that, and you're like, damn, Houston, you fucking notice everything. I was so mad. I was like, damn, Houston. Those are my observations.
That was such a funny moment. So the let's tell the story. So the story is that we had like a 4-person group show, and you came to like support and hang out.
Yeah, look at dope art.
And it's like later. This is the night the lady called me.
We all know that story.
Yeah, PC.
PC. Yeah.
And
pretty cool.
Pretty cool. Yep. And so Houston, who's like the husband of Ida and Ed, they both own Wonderland, and he like comes up to me and he's like, oh, like what's up with this thing and like that thing, and he starts pointing out like there was like a hidden fart bubble in one, and then on like the one there was like a model who I only painted one eyelash, and I was like, the other one's not necessary, so I just left it out.
Yeah.
And like very intentionally. And there was something else, and then so he asked me about all these things. I'm like, God damn, you caught every little thing, like that. I was like, no one's gonna notice these things, but I'm just gonna do them for myself. Then I tell Leon, and Leon
I was like so incensed.
Yeah,
I'm the Insiders Club. Josh, it's me. I'm the one in the club, not Houston.
Yeah, he's like, I told Houston all that shit. It was so funny. What can you do? That was such a hilarious. I'm like, Houston got this. You're like, I told him that.
Yeah, I'm glad I found out. Otherwise, to this day, you'd be thinking how smart Houston was and how I didn't know shit.
Yeah, I know. And I'm like, Leon's got the eye. He notices everything. He looks at that shit. Yeah, that was hilarious.
Yeah.
But yeah. So how much longer you got on this show?
The work has to be done on the 1st. So what is today, the 10th or 11th? Yeah. So
it has to be like delivered on the 1st. Is that right?
Yeah. So I'm looking at 20 days, and then I'm going to paint a little mural in the inside of the gallery.
After the 1st?
Yeah, just a small, like a character on the wall. That's going to be kind of like spotlit, So I'm not going to do a whole wall or anything like that. Okay. Can we talk about Amanda Lynn's 4 murals in 2 weeks? Did you see that shit, dude?
I did not, but she's a
keep
fucking
up with her?
beast. I do,
God.
But I just see her, what she's doing. I don't pay attention to like time versus outcome.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense.
Yeah, yeah.
So like I know she did that one out. So you're doing a show in Minna, right? 111 Minna.
Yeah.
That's where you're doing a show. I don't think we mentioned that.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
so
I guess we should say that, huh?
Yeah. So is this when Amanda Lynn did the one across the street from 111 Minna?
Yeah, she did the last show.
Okay, and this one she did 4.
Well, she did the mural. She does the 2-person. It was a solo show, but it was like collaborative works, and her friend Max.
Yeah.
And so she did that, and then she painted a like large scale mural in the alley across from Minna.
Yeah, I saw that.
And then she flew to Cayman Islands and painted 3 murals in 10 days. One of which was like massive mural. I don't know. That's fucking crazy shit, man.
I don't know.
I look at that kind of output and I'm like, how it just seems almost like superhuman. I mean, you know what it's like to paint a fucking mural.
Barely.
4 in fucking 2 weeks.
I know. Well, I am amazed. Like this last one I just did was the biggest thing I've ever painted. And it is amazing to see how you can do scale. Like that took, we did 7 days of work, but like it was like 90% of it was done probably in the first 3 days. And then it's all like fine tuning that isn't necessary probably, but I also can't let that shit slide.
Yeah, getting back to what we were talking about earlier, you know.
So, and I think Amanda Lynn, she's such a vet to this shit that she's developed a style that's made for speed. You know?
Absolutely.
It's like, it's be as fucking fast as humanly possible.
And she's disciplined in it, you know.
Yeah.
It's like it takes so much discipline to stay in that mode and not to go down any rabbit holes, you know. It's like, it's hard, man. I fucking can't stay out of the rabbit holes.
Me neither. That's why it took us 7 days rather than 3.
Yeah.
At 3, we could have been like, perfect, good, walk away.
It was like when Monty came back from his property and he fucking had like 16 hours until the deadline for the Wonderland show, right?
Oh, I know, crazy.
And he had just came back from a fucking road trip and he just started painting. He made the fucking whole painting in like one sitting. And he was basically saying that at the show. He's like, you know, really this doesn't look up to my standards, but I'm kind of glad I could only work that much time because otherwise no one would even notice all the additional time he put into it, you know? Because it's just so much of it's over people's heads.
Right.
It really
I mean,
is.
I'll notice.
Yeah, the other artists will notice. Yeah. Somewhat. It was a pretty fucking amazing painting.
Yeah, it was good. I can always tell. I'll always tell Monty, I'm like, because like if Monty will do like solo shows, and I can always tell like you waited till the last minute.
He always does.
Because you can always tell when he's got the extra time.
It's his philosophy from the beginning. Because when I first met Monty, it was right when he started painting, and I used to try and give him advice until I realized my advice does not apply to him because he's just a different type of dude.
For sure. Yeah.
But he just waits. His idea is if you wait until the very last second to start, then you can't be frivolous. You can't piss away time. It's like a tactic for him, you know?
I've heard that before. It doesn't work for me. I mean,
I can't do that.
I can work under those that's the thing. I can work into those conditions, but I just don't enjoy it.
Yeah, it's painful. Yeah.
And there's always things that I have to like I always have to like, what was it, kill your babies? What's that term or whatever? Yeah, I always have to like,
again with the baby death.
Baby, just a baby death episode.
Just a baby death episode. You better title it that.
Yeah, the title is Killing Ducklings.
Yeah. Done.
But yeah, it's that whole like I have to give up certain things that I wish I could do, but I can't. And sometimes those things are too important to leave out. So I'd rather figure out a way to not do that and give myself less stress. And you know what I mean? I mean, there's always going to be like, especially if you do big shows, like I'm sure this show you're working on now, there's probably like 4 paintings that aren't going to make it in the show that you probably were like, I wish I could do 4 more.
Absolutely. That's
paintings.
so, it's like now that I'm just weeks away, I'm finally, I don't have the benefit of being able to lie to myself and say I'm going to do those paintings. Now I realize they're not going to get made. You know?
Oh, I know. I go through that every show too.
It hurts. Like I was super proud of the show, and then I had that realization, and I spent a few days kind of feeling depressed. Like fuck, I should have worked harder. I would have fucking been able to make those paintings, but you know, I watched fucking TV and you know stuff that you really have to do to be a regular human.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's hard to leave those paintings on the table. It hurts. It fucking hurts. Yeah, I don't like it.
Yeah, I know. I'm always trying to figure out a way to like keep the motivation. You know, you always see those like motivational speak things, or like someone talking at like a college graduation, some celebrity, and it's always like inspiring. And you're like, I need to do some shit, but that shit lasts like 5 seconds.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like when you go to a museum and you see a super fucking amazing like exhibition, and then you just like you're just like in your mind you're like this is changing fucking everything.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
can't wait
Oh,
till
yeah.
I get home. I'm gonna fucking just like explode.
Exactly.
And then just like, and then by the time you get home and you get your shit set up, like 10 hours have passed, and you're like,
Right.
nah, fuck, whatever. I'll just do the same shit.
I'll explode later.
Yeah.
Exactly. You got some food in your stomach. You're like, is it nap time?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And one thing I know that's like weird is you see how productive people are, and it kind of gives you this like weird, like, I need to be more productive.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then you talk to people and you're like, dude, you're so productive. You're like, I'm productive. You're productive. And
Right.
then
Right.
it's like, they're like, what are you? And you just realize that like everyone thinks everyone is probably doing more than they're doing.
That's part
Yeah.
of it. Yeah.
And you
Absolutely.
have this, you have this like false idea of how much work is being done.
Yeah. I mean, I think I think the current system makes a real incentive to try and hurry,
Right.
And I think that certain, like Amanda Lynch, she's painting massive fucking murals. Obviously, speed is of the essence, and she's developed a brilliant recipe to make that happen.
Right.
But everyone is trying to bring a different set of talents
Right.
to the table, and some people's art is not fast art necessarily, but
Right.
it's hard if sort of the way everyone is grading art is like, how much are you making? Like, how often are you producing? How often are you posting new pieces? How often are you engaging your audience? If you're sort of like a artist that takes a longer perspective on a piece of art, it can kind of be unnerving. Like, you kind of have this sense like, fuck, I'm not making enough art, or I'm not keeping up, but part of it is just that, I mean, obviously I'm, speaking for myself. Like, I take a lot of time to make a painting. Like I said, I go down rabbit holes. It's not uncommon for me to spend, 60 hours on a painting. And, so, I mean, I think you have to get comfortable with yourself and really, really reconcile yourself to like, all right, this is the nature of what I'm doing. And I can't feel like stressed out because I'm not producing at the pace of another artist who's has a different set of skills and a different sort of like paradigm for how they're doing their hustle. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. I think it almost reminds me of like the food model or something. You know what I mean? Like it's always like you can have a high-end restaurant and McDonald's and everything in between or something like that. There is a version of art that is made for speed, and not necessarily saying that it's shit or that it's not quality, but I think there is something to putting in the time and effort. I do think that makes a product that you can see, you can see the effort put into it. And I think, I don't know how much people value that. I think it should be valued. I think it should be appreciated. I think that's a whole different avenue of teaching, having the ability to have people understand and teach that kind of what it takes to do that. But
it reminds me of something I heard you say on your podcast, which I thought was really smart, which is that visual art, it almost feels like the point of it is to inspire awe. And so I think it's just different forms of inspiring awe. I mean, you can be inspired by the refinement and beauty of a singular piece of art, or you can be inspired by a body of work that just comes at you fast and furious. There's just different sort of interpretations of inspiring that awe.
Yeah, totally agree.
Hell yeah.
Whoever
Nice.
Whoever said those words that you got inspired by is a genius.
Well,
like I should.
I have smart friends.
But you were saying that you spend around like 60 hours of paint. Like that's not average, right? Or is that?
No, I would. I mean, it all depends. And it's hard to keep track of hours because, I'm not a diligent worker when I'm painting. I'm like painting a little bit, and then I'm queuing up a podcast, and I'm going to smoke a bowl, and then I'm going to go make myself a cup of tea, and then so, I could be in my studio for 8 hours and get 4 hours of work done. That's so it's hard. It's a little bit hard to quantify it, but yeah, I mean, I would say, you know, those big paintings in there, I worked on those for about 5 weeks each.
Yeah.
And I probably hit about 20 to 30 hours a week. So yeah, I mean, that's well over 100 hours on each of those paintings.
For sure, yeah.
It adds up. Like I said, I don't know how many of those hours are like brush on the canvas, but I definitely sat back there with them for a long time.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I was kind of wondering too about it. Like, how much of that are you factoring actually the thought process of like actually coming up with the ideas and all that? Because like for me right now, I'm not like producing a lot of finished work right now. It's a lot of idea stage stuff.
Yeah.
And that all counts. It just doesn't look like it's like coming out.
I mean, you're so right. This, like I was talking about preparing for the show, and that this just illustrates your point, is that, you know, I wanted to do new material. I didn't really consider that doing new material was going to require a like trial and error component. It was going to entail following false paths that ended in dead ends.
Oh, so there was stuff that didn't work.
There was. I mean, I burned a month working on 2 different paintings. I basically painted it once, and I was like, no, this is fucking not right. I'm going to start again. And I painted a fucking second time, and I just realized this idea is kind of faulty. You know what I mean?
Damn.
So it, you know, it happens, but that's not wasted time, because I was learning what didn't work.
Exactly.
And sometimes you want to make it work and you try and force it and you think that you can sometimes it just doesn't work.
Yeah. Sometimes you can get stuck in that like safe, comfortable space where you know everything's going to work. And I think the work suffers from that.
I agree.
So I think the ability to try something and fail is just a good strategy, because at least you're in the realm of pushing yourself into places that you haven't been before and not knowing how successful it's going to be.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think that was the most stressful part of preparing for this show. It was the feeling of uncertainty and the endless like vetting of ideas in my head, which I just am kind of an obsessive brainstormer to a point where sometimes like stop. But you know, it's like I just get ideas and I think they're great and I build them up and then I start to shoot them down and I pick the flaws with them. And then it's just like there's so much brainstorming and just thinking and maybe drawing something out and just like what Sergio was saying, it's like it's rewarding afterwards. Like I'm so glad I took a risk. I think it you know, the body of work, whether or not people responding positively to that have seen it, but just on my own personal estimation, like I feel super proud of it. And I'm glad that I had this opportunity to have a solo show and I took a chance and I didn't just do like a greatest hits kind of a deal.
For sure.
So it was rewarding, but it was simultaneously really exhausting. You know, it was fucking tiring trying to figure this shit out. And, you know, some days you're like, I got it. This is so dope. And then the next day you're like, fuck, that idea was just not good, you know?
Well, that's kind of the danger of waiting for the last minute to start. It's like, you have to revert to your greatest hits.
Yeah, that's true. That's really true. Yeah. Yeah. Time, because it takes time. I mean, I don't know. You guys are both highly creative people, but so I'd be interested to know what you think. But for me, like I'm most creative when I work on something for like maybe an hour and then I put it aside and I maybe like do some other shit, work on some other stuff, and then I'll sleep on it and I'll get up. Like I do better creatively when I just touch down on it for a little bit every day and I allow myself to do that over the course of like a week or two. That's like how, for me, how the ideas really kind of like mature gradually.
Right. I did that a little bit in the last series I was doing, especially in the first stages of it when I was mainly doing the figures.
Is Orgies in the Dark?
Yeah. The Orgies in the Dark. TM.
Is this the ones that have the kittens in them?
Yeah.
I love that series, man. I love that series.
Thanks. Yeah, like the small ones that I did that were in the corner on that wall, those were a lot of, I would just work on them an hour at a time and then just work on the next one and just cycle through them.
I see.
But in between all that, I was thinking about, okay, what's the next step I'm going to do with it? So by the time I did those like 12 or whatever I ended up doing, by the time I got to the ones where I was putting like the cats and stuff in them, I was like, okay, I got enough of a process down that I could figure it out from there.
So it sounds like you were sort of solving the riddle as you're doing the painting, as opposed to sort of making a plan and beforehand and executing.
And usually it is for me like solve all the problems before I even start. But I just wanted to switch it up and see what happens if I solve problems on canvas. And I mean, there's definitely advantages to doing one or the other, but it was just fun to just change my process in that way and see it still work out.
I like those little like quick watercolors that you're doing, the little figure ones, the paint drip ones.
Yeah.
Those are fun to see. Sergio's got all kinds of different styles, man. I mean, it's kind of amazing when I see like you've got like your plein air, and then you've got your more like detailed stuff. I saw you post like a cityscape with cars and shit that was really fucking amazing. You got your real loose watercolor stuff.
Yeah.
You've got your like moody abstract with the little kitten face. It's like this really dark, moody painting, and then there's like a little fucking kitten chilling in the corner and shit. I just love it, man. It's cool. It's cool.
Yeah.
Just trying to figure out what the hell I'm doing.
Yeah, that's the process. That's art, right?
Right.
Yeah.
What was that thing you said in one of your posts recently? You're like, art is where internal problem solving meets like external influence or something. Like you made this really like beautiful, like eloquent observation about like art making, and then the comments are like, what kind of pencil are you using?
I don't know. I don't know. Happens all the time.
I know. That's kind of, yeah, no. I know we shouldn't get into that topic. It's hilarious, man. I really, it kind of cracks me up. It's to the point now where I really actually enjoy it quite a bit.
Me too, a little bit.
At this point, you've made a game out of it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's just so absurd, you know?
It's so
like,
bad.
Why is it that you are getting so much of that particular question?
I don't know. There's this weird thing that seems to happen where there's like a wave of the same question, like just within like maybe the last year I've been getting, do you use photo reference?
Oh, okay.
And I get it so often. I'm like, how come I've never gotten this? And all of a sudden it's like the new question. And there's there's a question I just started getting a lot of, and I'm like, is this the next question?
Was it like, do you work from models or something like that?
No, something else. I can't remember. I'm drawing a blank, but there's these weird ways. What pencil you use has always been like, and that one to me is so weird. Like I'll tell people if they're like, what do you use to paint? I feel like that's a good, that's an okay question to ask. When they say what pencil you use, I'm like, that's such a bad question.
Because it's a pencil. How much variation is there in a fucking pencil?
Exactly. It's a pencil.
It's like a little skinny piece of lead. What the fuck? Yeah.
And the fact that they know it's a pencil, sometimes I get, what pen is that? And I'm like, oh, you're like way off. But the pencil, it's like, so you know it's a mechanical pencil. So what do you want?
Right.
What do you want from me? I don't get I don't get it.
They want you to tell them what the magic bullet is that's going to make them a great artist, so that they don't have to spend a bunch of time in their studio with their fucking nose in their book.
Yeah, that happens all the time.
Do you think part of it is they want you to somehow acknowledge them in a way, and they're just trying to find the easiest question to ask?
That's true.
Maybe. I don't know. Because sometimes, like, there was, like, when I've been recently, how I've been messing with them.
Yeah.
Some of the people, they're like, I don't get what you're saying. What pencil? And you're like,
yeah.
You're like, okay.
I don't know if I've seen The Rain, but I don't know. I haven't seen.
I like it. You're like, you did that post. You're like, my DMs aren't safe. And posted you talking shit to people.
I know. I have like 3 what pencils that this week in my DMs, and I'm like, should I do it or not? Yeah. I mean, it's a weird world we live in.
Yeah. I think Sergio's right, though. I think the reason that's motivating them to ask is because they're really impressed with what you do. And I think they almost are looking for like, what is it that's making his art look this special way? Like they don't realize it's just the way you're handling the pencil. They think that there's some magic in in the instrument, maybe.
I tried to let people know that as often as I kind of can without going crazy. It's all about, working hard, putting in the hours.
Yeah.
There are like learning techniques that I think are important,
Like what?
like blocking in shapes and those kind of
Okay, right.
things that are like
fundamental skills.
yeah, like very
Right.
fundamental. Like if you don't know those, go YouTube these things. It's like learning how to like really see value quickly, like those little
Right.
things.
Working from big to small.
Yeah, and
Was there any place specifically that you went to when you were like trying to figure that out? Like as far as like a YouTube channel or anything?
no, I don't even know if I like watched anything specifically that taught me those things.
Oh,
It's more like picking it up from like hanging out with people or things like that.
for sure. Yeah.
Or there might have been like, or I might pick up like a little tip here and there. It's almost like this podcast. Like, you're not going to get a lot from it, but the little things you get from it, like those are, at least for me, those are like, oh, those are important. Like,
Right. Yeah.
Just picking up knowledge from wherever you can get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Exactly.
would have to. I know there was a guy on YouTube. I don't know. I'd have to look it up. There was nothing. I would watch like a single video and be like, "Oh, that's cool. Let me try that out."
Right.
100 million times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Until I get it down. It's like I think when I learned like blocking in technique, I was like, okay, like I just gotta
That's so
work on
important.
that.
Yeah.
Bro, I'm so old. I went to the fucking library to learn that shit. I really did. I was like checking out books on fucking how to draw.
That might be where I learned blocking
Yeah.
in. It's that. It's like, you like get like weird rough shapes and then you're like, all right, cool.
Yeah.
Or like learning how to measure things quickly, those type of things.
Right.
It's like those are useful techniques, but once you kind of have those things in your wheelhouse, it's just practicing them a lot and working a lot on it. And there's things that just come from time that aren't necessarily those things. And maybe they are, but it's like a byproduct or something.
Yeah, like when I learned to draw, I did all the like figure drawing where I would have like the block that was the pelvis, and then I'd have the spine, and then the rib cage would be like blocked in.
Right.
I'd draw like hundreds of little like 3-dimensional figures twisting in different ways, and like playing sports and
Right.
fucking
Yeah,
blah
exactly.
blah blah. And I never do use any of that shit now.
Right.
But that gave me the foundation to understand how to draw that
Right.
that things that seem complex are just really made up of simple constituent
Right.
components.
Yeah.
Once you can kind of like, I think the problem that a lot of people have is they get too, kind of obvious, they get too wrapped up in the details of things and they don't see the bigger, more simple picture,
Right.
know? Once
Yeah.
you can really sort of like see through the details and at the larger forms, then
Right.
that's like,
Yeah. It's like,
that's the key.
yeah, it's like looking at like a thing and kind of making out a silhouette of it almost.
Yeah, right.
And then breaking that into
Right.
smaller shapes or something like that.
Exactly, yeah.
But I think, I don't know, I can never tell, like to explain that to someone is so complicated and hard. It's just like, you just need to put in a lot of work,
Yeah.
man. Like that ends up being the case,
Yeah, graffiti like that too, right? I mean, you get it. Like everyone sucks so bad when they start, and it's like you just get a black book and you start on one end and you just do your fucking letters again and again
Right.
and again and again.
for sure.
And once you've done it like 300 times, then you can start painting, know,
Yeah.
or whatever. But no one wants to do those 300 pages. That's the problem,
Yeah.
My friend
Yeah,
always
exactly.
said it like he's a like a really amazing doodler. My friend Ramon Ortega, who's actually he's one of the managers over at Amoeba. Really cool dude who knows
Okay.
a ton about hip. He's like the hip hop oracle, man. This guy knows so much about hip hop. It's
I
crazy.
just assume he has white eyes and he's just like,
He's kind of like that. He floats. Yeah, he has like a levitation thing he
Nice.
does. But yeah, his thing, he used to always tell me that he's like, you got to get the bad ones out. Like that's what art is all about. Get the bad ones out. And the first 100 are just getting the bad ones out. And
Right.
then things start to get better,
yeah. I mean, one of the things that I love about what graffiti gave me is like this ability to be okay at doing letters, like writing letters or whatever, and seeing like what I like and like having opinions about what I think is good and not good in those. in like the whole weird letter world. And so MJ, she'll do like these letters that are horrible, and she's just like, what are you thinking? I'm like, that is so bad. And she's like, how did you get so good? And it's like, I literally will like write my name when I'm talking to someone on the phone or something, like 1,000 times,
millions of fucking times,
all the time.
Yeah.
It's just like an obsession.
Yeah.
And I pick out the flaw and I try to redo it. And it's such a hand motion that's like so built on repetition
it's
that
like refining.
That you just can't do it just by like, okay, let me just try to do it.
Right.
It takes a ton of repetition and realizing what looks good and bad with each other and how these things interact with each other.
Right. It's like your own version of those Chinese calligraphers who do everything over and over again.
You know, I mean, which is the same thing that applies to the art that we're making today. It's just on a broader scale.
Right.
You know, we've just kind of like opened it out to include a lot more elements and symbols as opposed to just confines.
For sure.
But yeah, repetition, man, getting those reps in, right? It's the same
all
for
about
everything.
That. Yeah, it's all about working hard. I always think that the best people at art are usually the ones that put in the most hours.
Yeah, that's true.
You know,
yeah.
Back to Pollock. That's why I don't like his shit.
Lazy fucker. He's too busy getting drunk all the time, man.
But yeah, I really do think that's the case. I think, and a lot of times the artists that I know of that are really putting in a ton of work, you'll see them for like a very little bit amount of time. That's because usually they're like in their studio working, you know? I mean, it's nice to see people, but it's also like, I got to be putting in these hours.
Right.
I mean, it's good that I get to do a podcast. So I get to see all my friends.
Yeah.
We're all in our little worlds painting away, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I guess I think that is definitely true. But also I think you have to kind of balance that with, you know, what's your priority in life? Is it to be the best artist, or is it to be a good artist and hang out with all your art homies and really sort of like enjoy the fruits of being in this place and time and this life?
And mine is the first.
Here's the first what?
The first option. I really do think it's.
So you're saying you are more interested in being a great artist than.
I think so.
Okay.
I would say so. I'm so obsessed with that idea of just creating the best work I can create. Like, I love hanging out with friends. Don't get me wrong. I definitely know the importance of that. And definitely more like even MJ, she's like, you always want to, like, we're always like, let's have a chill weekend. And you're like, cool. So let's go get some beers with the friends or whatever. You know, it's like, it's that, like, that's a part of me that I can't not do, but I'm also just obsessed. Like, my priority, I think most, like, in more important, I've even told MJ this. I'm like, I think art's more important than you. Probably don't tell your wife that, but it's that, like, idea that, like, it's a priority in my, I don't know. I wish it wasn't, probably. But I'm obsessed with it.
Well, I mean, I think it's paying dividends for you. Maybe. I mean, and it's also part of is the nature of your life, you know, that you don't, I mean, you have a full-time job, but you're not being pulled in the direction of having kids or having, you know, other distractions. You really have stayed focused on what you want to do.
And sometimes, I think I might have said this before, but sometimes it's like, oh, I wish I could literally just do a job and be happy with it.
Yeah. I think of that all the time.
Yeah. Just like when you got off, you just came home and you didn't have to think about shit. You were just like completely free.
Just let me go grab a beer, hang out, do nothing. Sounds beautiful.
It does. Because that's the hardest part about being like self-employed or having a career that's you're self-driven, is that you are never, ever off of work.
Yeah.
You know?
It's horrible. I mean, but I can't not do it. That's the other thing.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe I could. Maybe, you know, maybe that's one of those things you learn when you get older.
Yeah, maybe.
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. I don't know.
Well,
I don't know. I can't see myself ever being satisfied with not doing something like full time that's fulfilling, or that's not fulfilling in some way.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Right. That's what made us artists, is because we all need that, right?
Right.
I know it ends up being, like that whole like David Cho question we ask. It's that whole thing where it's like, it's
later
interesting
in the
because
podcast.
it's like, if I got all that money, it's like a lot of the answers we get are like, I'll get a really good studio. Because it's like, we just end up just being in our studio.
You just,
painting.
exactly. You just do a fancy version of what you're already doing. I know. That's so true. Well, I've heard you guys ask that question. I thought the same thing. I just have a studio in a bunch of fucking cities, and I would just...
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, that's all right. We'll skip that one later.
But yeah, that's the like the weird thing is like even all your like everything that involves why you would work a full-time job, all those problems go away. It's like, all right, now you can create art or do whatever you want. It's like, all right, all I want to do is just sit in my studio and paint.
Yeah,
it's just like,
that's true. Yeah, I feel you. I think that all the time. Like, I seriously feel like I'm living my best life, man. I really am. Like, what would I rather be doing? What city would I rather be in than San Francisco? None. Maybe New York, but for the most part, none. I live in California. Who would I rather have with friends than, my friends I have? Right. Nobody. Beautiful family. Like, I live in this fucking gorgeous rent-controlled apartment. Right. And it's fucking, life is so, like, what is there beyond this? I don't know. I'm painting every day.
I guess Outside Lands could move to a different area.
Yeah, they could get the fuck out of here.
One less day of shit.
Yeah,
that's your biggest complaint. Like, put that in fucking Outside Lands.
I know. For people to know, I just live right next to where the box office is for Outside Lands. So my neighborhood, Outside Lands is happening right now. So the neighborhood is like a zoo. There's parties and
it's weird. It's a weird. Like, I mean, the city always has people walking around. It's just like, it's kind of like Beta Breakers when you're like a couple blocks off from it.
Yeah.
There's just like a lot of random people dressed in like weird attire.
Yeah, there's like a lot of leather, like fringe and shit like that. And
girls just wearing less clothes than usual because it's San Francisco, so people are usually bundled up.
Right.
That's the kind of funny thing about Outside Lands is that you just watch the people suffering, like afterwards, they didn't bring enough clothes.
Right. Yeah.
I don't remember seeing this many midriffs.
Yeah, there's a lot of skin out there for sure. It's kind of nice. I can't hate on it.
But it's in a couple hours, they're going to regret. They're going to regret these choices.
No doubt. You know what's funny? When you live in San Francisco, it's so cold all the time that you just are so not used to seeing people show skin that when you see it, it feels very scandalous.
Yeah,
put some clothes on.
Yeah.
Or if I see like a dude jogging with his shirt off, I'll just be like, fucking show off. Man, it's not that hot out here.
Yeah, we see those nips. Those things are about to fall off.
Yeah. It's not even like a scandalous, like modesty thing. It's more like concern. Like, you're gonna feel so bad. Right. Yeah. Can I give you a sweater, please?
Yeah.
Yeah, you might have a really good point.
It's dope.
It's a nice life.
It is a nice life. And I'd just like to put in a plug for San Francisco that it's still fucking a cool place. I love it.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah. Even though we talk
we do, yeah.
I know. I do too. I fluctuate between defending it, and then just being so bitter and like down on it.
Yeah.
And then I'll swing back around to defending it.
It's one of those things where you're mad because you love it so much.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the issue.
Yeah, that's true.
Being a SoCal native, does it hurt extra to defend it?
I mean, no, because I didn't really feel any connection to Southern California, to be honest with you.
Oh, really?
I mean, I think part of it was maybe the age I was, and I think when you're young, you kind of always have an idea that there's something fucking awesome over the horizon that you just can't get to,
Sure.
But when I came to Northern California, I really, truly felt like I found my place. Like I felt like I had way more interesting conversations and whatever. I mean, Southern California is awesome. I fucking love it there. But Northern California is just, that's culturally more who I am.
Yeah. Southern California just has they also have like a weird, like it's like a beacon for a certain person who's pursuing a career.
Yeah, that's true.
Go-getters. There's a lot of like, glitzy go-getters out there in SoCal. And everyone's really focused on looks and car and, you know, material belongings.
Yeah. I think that can make it an environment that's a little disconnected from like feeling like a home. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I think it's more you feeling that you weren't that connected to it is probably more natural than someone. I bet most people in Southern California probably don't feel too connected to it because they're probably going there for, business reasons or whatever.
Well, I would say that applies to sort of the I think what we're stereotypically thinking of is,
Right.
whereas,
Like Hollywood types.
yeah, I mean, 90% of LA is suburban sprawl,
Right.
Yeah.
And, those people that grow up in those neighborhoods and live in those neighborhoods, they have a strong attachment to it and they relate to it deeply. But that's a different LA, and you're not going to go to LA to visit and be in one of those places.
Right.
You're going to go to LA and be in Hollywood or Santa Monica.
Sure.
Yeah.
So in that sense, I think people's perceptions of LA can be skewed because there is a huge blue collar component to LA.
For sure.
But it's just not that visible.
Yeah.
But Northern California, man, I went to Humboldt and, when I got up there, it was like hippies and,
White guy
vegetarians and like hairy armpits on women, which I had never experienced. I mean, it was just like people weren't giving a fuck. You know what I mean? They were just
A lot
like,
of that.
that's some magical fairy
Yeah.
shit. You're doing a lot of LSD and like
A lot of white guy dreadlocks.
there was tons of white guy dreadlocks. I'm not trying to, but I
Shout
think
out.
not just the white guys with dreadlocks, but pretty much everybody there was sort of on a similar and enlightened vibe. It was like
patchouli oil.
it was a patchouli place. I mean, I never really bought into those cultural trappings so much. I was definitely SoCal in that regard. But I really was kind of awakened by the mentality of people not being so caught up in the image, you know what I mean? I think that's what I was like when I got to Northern California. It's like people weren't like shackled by their need to be cool in the same way they were in LA, and I still find that, although it's changed. I mean, the San Francisco of the 90s was gritty, and it was kind of like a different hipster vibe, and it was hip hop, and it was I don't know, it's changed. Obviously it's changed a ton, and it's not nearly as cool as it used to be culturally, but I think that's most places. I mean, I think people in Portland and Austin and all over this country, any place that's kind of a cool place, Denver, everyone's saying the same fucking thing,
Yeah.
So I think
That's
part
a
of it
good
is
point.
just that the world is changing.
Maybe.
Yeah, just getting a little more boring. We're all
It
becoming
is.
a little LA.
Yeah. And we're getting older, so maybe our perception of it is changing, and we're seeing it like the good old days. And the new people are like, fuck the good old days. Like, this shit is dope right now,
Right.
Like all those people, in my backyard in San Francisco, it being a big city, all the backyards it's like a corridor of backyards behind all the houses, right? And so just for the listeners, there's a bunch of partying going on back there.
And I mean, like for the most part, most people, your neighbor on the other side of the fence, you can hear them, but you can't see them. But since the houses are so tall here,
Oh yeah, you're looking down on them.
yeah, that everyone can see into everyone's backyard. Everyone can see, like if you're on your patio or whatever, you can see each other. So you just see a ton of people. Like there's a different like form of intimacy that San Francisco backyards have compared to the average like neighborhood where you can hear, oh, my neighbors are having a party. I can hear them. I can hear some chitter chatter or talking, but you're not going to see people or even,
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, we got these new neighbors back there. This neighborhood was a lot of old people, and particularly a lot of like heavy Chinese influence. And the gentrification is just moving a lot of, well, obviously old people die and then their places get flipped.
Right.
And there's a lot of people getting evicted as well. And so it's a lot of like older, quiet people leaving, and a lot more sort of young people that are a little more, you know, wiling out a little bit. I don't know. Where the fuck do these people get this money? I don't even know who they are,
I don't know.
So there's some crazy fucking 20-year-olds back there partying their asses off. My new neighbors, man, they bump so loud. The corridor was so quiet. It's so beautiful. Like there's birds flying up and down. There's trees. It's just like, for the last 10 years, it's just been this idyllic paradise. And then these fucking college students move in and they just bump their music so loud. You know what? They have this huge speaker and they take it out on their little back patio and then they just leave it there and then they go inside. So they're not even outside and they're playing their music outside. And then they'll play like 3/4 of a song and then they'll cut it and switch to another song.
Oh, you know what you need to do?
It doesn't even get to the end.
Oh, if it's Bluetooth, you need to figure out a pair to that bitch. And then when they walk out, you start playing some shit like... I don't know, find some funny audio that's like, hey, neighbor, shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
And just
put this on loop.
Yeah. I thought about doing that, but I think that they're at that age, they're of the demographic. If you tell them to shut the fuck up, they might just double down on it. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah.
Because I used to be like that.
Yeah.
And that's why
That's a good point.
I'm kind of like, my initial reaction to them was like, I was so upset because like my little quiet little spot was getting destroyed. But then when I think about it, I know when I was 21, 22, I was like bumping so fucking loud. I remember the neighbors calling the cops coming to the door. We had this big screaming match with the neighbors. Fuck you. We're not going to turn our music down, you know, and it's full circle, right? So
Yeah.
it is.
I know. MJ gets like that a little bit. Our neighbors don't party. We had neighbors that would party hard. She'd be like, should we call the cops? I'm like, fuck, no. What are you talking about? But I grew up like no one ever called the cops on us, even when we were loud as fuck. But we grew up in like a weird neighborhood where people just didn't call the cops on people ever.
It was East Palo Alto back in the day.
So it's like we don't even understand that. It's more like if someone calls the cops on someone, everyone judges that person.
Yeah.
No one's judging the partier.
Right.
So I'm like, what are you talking about? When we party at our house, everyone, like, weirdly at our place now, if we throw a party, we're probably really loud, but our neighbors leave us alone. And I'm like, oh, that's pretty awesome. I don't know if that's going to stick around now that I have people in the backpack, but
yeah, your whole vibe changed there.
Maybe. we have to test it. We still haven't tested that yet, but I think it did. So whatever.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't know where I'm going with this. The end. Happily ever after.
And that's that. Have you guys heard about ladybugs?
So should we talk? How are we on time?
We just hit 2 hours.
Oh, yeah.
Damn, we could talk.
Oh, yeah.
Should we do the...
Yeah.
It's time for Sergio's question corner.
It's my favorite. I've been prepping for this shit, man.
Wow.
Hang on, let me get my notes.
Question number 1. Who are your top 5 living artists?
Damn, this is a tough one. You guys. I didn't know this
Even after preparing.
I didn't know this was coming. No, I will put Barry McGee in my top 5.
Okay.
Just for the reasons before mentioned. And then I also feel compelled to do another graffiti writer, which is Revoke. And I just put him there because I don't think anyone has kinged graffiti the way he did. And based on the fact that, you know, he was around sort of during the golden era, I don't think anybody ever will king it the way he did. So I put him as one also.
Yeah, if you're not familiar, look up what he did in the LA River.
Yeah, I mean, he got ran out of LA, man. He was so, I mean, he just was prolific on another level, you know. And so that, yeah, I put those guys for my graffiti writers. And then, I mean, James Jean is like, I just fucking love James Jean's work. His flow is so nice. Damn, it's just so, like, it's so original. It's so him. Right when you see it, you know it's his hand. He produces so fucking much of it. Big, small. I mean, the imagery has layers of meaning and context, and the colors are spectacular. I just think, as far as like, for me, as far as a living master, like, I believe that he is my favorite artist. So that's 3. Let's see. You know, it's tricky because like the criteria is like, there's so many artists that I really like for particular periods. I think we talked about this, you know, but I think an artist whose paintings I really like a lot and I don't really know much about her in the context of her overarching career, but I really like Hannah Yada's paintings quite a lot. You know who she is? She's like this crazy surrealist painter that does naked women and colorful reef fish, and it incorporates.
Oh, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah,
I think she does like tribal. It's like
yeah,
tribal.
it has a tribal element to
Okay,
it for
I know who you're talking
sure.
about.
Yeah, I like her work quite a lot. And lastly, can I say someone who's not a visual artist?
Yeah.
How about I'll shout out Jared Hess for making two of my favorite fucking movies, and Nacho Libre and Napoleon
I was trying to
Dynamite.
remember, like, why does that sound so familiar? Yeah.
Yeah. So since I did that,
That's a good
I got to
one.
give it up to that since I was on that whole Nacho Libre kick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you
forgot
did
to-
those drawings. Yeah.
Yeah, I did that series for
Yeah.
October. Yeah.
Those were awesome.
I don't know if I talked about that story with you, but I know I've talked about it on the podcast where it's like, where there was a painting you did of the guy, the Nacho Libre character that you put in Wonderland, and
Oh yeah.
and then there was a guy who I was talking to, and I was like, "What was your favorite piece?" And he's like, "Oh," and he talked about your piece, and he was like, "There's just this sadness to it," and I was like, "Really?" And I thought it was like so like kind of funny and interesting because I knew that it was Nacho Libre, and then I was like, "Hey, Leon, talk to this guy."
Yeah, and then he wasn't even aware of the movie. He was just perceiving the painting.
Oh really?
Isolated. Yeah.
And I watched you guys like talk for a long time. I was like, "Damn, like they're really getting into it."
I love it.
Like that's awesome.
I love it. I mean, I really like it when people like interpret my art in the way that I don't intend it.
Oh yeah.
I find that to be really fascinating. Yeah. So, and I don't think it like erases my meaning. And in some ways, I mean, how much are we really fully in control of the meaning?
Right.
Sometimes
I
it's
agree,
like we make
yeah.
the art and we're figuring out what it means as we're making it, or it's kind of a Rorschach and we're just sort of like interpreting it based on our
Yeah, it can kind of
biases
change
or
as
whatever.
you do it. Yeah.
Yeah,
like
so
you're saying.
so sometimes people will say something like what Josh was saying about the pick your poison, about how you're going to die anyway, right? Like I never really conceptualized that, but I think I relate to it, and I think that, and now that you said it, it's definitely part of. I'm going to use that when people ask me.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Just credit me.
Well, Josh Lawyer says.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, just say a wise man once said. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, exactly. What artist do you hate?
Oh yeah.
I can't really think of like visual artists. I can't really think of. I could much more easily tell you some like musicians that I can't stand listening to.
Okay.
And I'm going to narrow it down to one particular song that I cannot fucking stand. And I will never, as long as I live, understand why so
be
many
making a mistake by saying
people
this.
love this song, because it probably is the dumbest song ever written. You guys know the song Bohemian Rhapsody?
What?
Oh,
Of
my
course.
fucking God, that song is so dumb. I fucking hate that song, man. Every time it comes on, everyone starts singing it.
Yeah.
It fucking hurts my soul. Just feel like,
Why do you hate Bohemian Rhapsody?
I mean, what is endearing about it? I don't know.
I feel like it's just like lighthearted and like ridiculous. It's like super absurd.
It is
in a
super
fun
absurd,
way.
but it's like dipped in like this like faux emotion, like we are the champions.
That's not the same song.
my friend. Isn't that Bohemian Rhapsody?
No.
Oh,
That's
what's that?
Isn't that just We Are the Champions? Is that the name of
I
it?
think so.
what's
Bohemian
it?
Rhapsody is I see a little silhouette.
Oh, I hate that song too. See, that's the
You're
thing.
just not a Queen
yeah,
fan,
I
I
can't
guess,
stand Queen,
apparently.
man. I really don't like it.
Queen's
Those songs
wow.
are all fucking dumb.
Queen's my favorite.
Well, that's cool. See, I don't like the Beatles. I don't like Queen. And I'm going to tell you another thing. Out of Wu-Tang, I only like RZA and Method Man. I can't stand Ghostface Killer.
What about
Really?
ODB?
I don't like Old Dirty Bastard.
He's
No,
my
that's
favorite.
it. And I also think the Beastie Boys are overrated.
Well, I agree with that.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't mind them, but I think they're overrated.
Definitely. They get extra points for being white, and that's not right. I just don't think that's
Yeah.
right.
Plus, they got
Maybe.
a super dope bass line that if you play it with like fat bass, it's just like, well, they nailed that.
Visual artists, I can't think of. I mean, like I kind of express my philosophy of trying not to hate on visual art, but I do. I mean, there are works of art that I think annoy me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I should say this because I don't want to offend anyone hearing it, but I'll say it anyways.
Say it.
There's this mural on Divisadero and Fell Street that says "No More Mean People." Have you seen it?
I think I have seen that.
It's just like they stenciled the "No More Mean People" like 1,000 fucking times on the side of this building. It just has no design or color concept or fucking anything. And you know what makes me mad about it is I know it was a ton of work. It's like someone spent a lot of fucking time painting that mural. So if you're listening to this and you painted that, I think that you need a better design strategy. But keep at it.
And
Shots fired!
and a
but keep at
better
it.
message. It's such a dumb message.
Yeah, that's, you know what?
I know.
Here's
so
another thing.
basic. Yeah.
I like affirmative messages. Anytime you put something in your art, it should be an affirmation. It shouldn't be like a reaction against something, because then it's like if you say "no more mean people," then you're letting mean people dictate your statement, right?
Right.
You're not
That's a good
against
point.
mean people. You're for kind people, right?
And what do you, how do you define mean people?
Yeah,
Right.
that's true too.
You know, it's like it's such a weird term. It's like what I might find to be mean
Right.
is your mural.
Yeah, yeah. Like
Exactly,
it's such a pathetic whine. Like, oh, no more mean people.
Right.
You
It's
know.
like it's
All right.
such a bad.
It's like, don't hurt my feelings, please. That's what it translates to. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a pathetic mural.
And it's like very Jackson Pollocky. also.
Yeah, well, it looks like a bunch of static. So yeah, I agree, man. I agree.
So it's straight up bite.
All right, so there you go.
Hell
I
yeah.
hated on some shit.
Hell yeah.
Sorry about
That's my shit.
the Queen mistake. Bohemian Rhapsody, and what's the other song I hate?
We Are the Champions.
We Are the Champions. Yeah, we are the champions. So
believe you don't like Queen.
direct all angry direct messages to @Loucheur.
Just don't tell them how to spell it. They have to figure it
They'll
out.
never find me. They will never find me.
Let's see. Oh, what would you do with David Cho money? We'll finally. Everyone's on a cliffhanger.
Yeah, really. I mean, I wouldn't do too much different. I mean, the truth is that I would definitely have a place in Paris. I would definitely have a place in New York.
Nice.
I keep a place in San Francisco, and I have a place in Barcelona. And I would just keep studios, and I would try and just rotate. Maybe I wouldn't even have a place. Maybe I just Airbnb a studio someplace for 6 months, and then I bounce to some other place for 6 months.
That's pretty close to my.
Is it?
My answer,
yeah, I mean, an artist wouldn't want that, right?
Yeah.
What is, like, when you name these places, why do those places stick out for like a place you would want to go and create art and live in for a bit?
Just because I've been to those places and I liked them a lot, you know. And I think I would feel like, you know, sometimes people want to like go live in Kansas and make art, and they're just like, I have the internet and I don't need to live in a big city. But I think I really get a lot of energy from being in places where there's a high creative, you know, content and a lot of people who are doing that. So I would have to be a city that had a lot of creative people there, you know.
For sure.
Yeah,
That's cool.
gotcha. I think. Oh yeah, the hot seat.
Quick fire?
the 10 artists.
How many of those did I get last week? 4.
You got like,
All right.
I think you got half of them if I remember right.
And I probably added a couple that weren't in.
yeah. There was one that you added. I was like, oh, that should probably be in there. I'm trying to remember who it was though.
I have to remember some shit. I better not smoke. That yet.
Let's see. Name number 1 was Rembrandt.
Rembrandt.
I just tell you what I think about Rembrandt.
Yeah.
I mean, OG, you know, foundation layer.
For sure.
Yeah.
I used to do Sargent, but like everybody's like, oh, okay. Everybody says the same thing about Sargent, basically.
Well, I have a little story to tell about Sargent. It's not,
Okay.
It's a little story. It's nothing too exciting, but I was in Madrid many years ago, and we were just wandering around, and we just wandered past this. It was a exhibit at like some kind of like castle looking building. I don't even remember what the building was, but it was fucking old ass cool looking building. And it was a free exhibit, and it was Sargent and Sorolla.
Oh,
And
wow.
it absolutely blew my fucking mind. I mean, Sorolla was like okay, but fucking Sargent, good. It was unbelievable. Like when you pull back and it looks like photorealistic, and then you pull in, and the brush strokes are so intentional and so beautiful and fluid. I mean, the brush strokes are just fucking gorgeous. And then you just back out and it just like gels together into this like super cohesive, amazing, absolutely amazing. I fucking love Sargent. Love Sargent.
That's interesting. I've never like compared Soroya to Sargent. Like I've seen a Soroya exhibition and it was pretty amazing, but I don't know if I've ever actually put them side by side. I definitely think Sargent was a better painter overall than Soroya, but seeing them two together would probably like make me think, or either solidify it or make me rethink what I think of them. Like when I think of like the three artists in that category is like Zorn, Sargent, and Soroya. So seeing an exhibition of the three of them would be really interesting to see like
that'd be cool.
Who really stands out.
Yeah. And I'm downplaying Soroya. I mean, the Soroya art was beautiful.
His color's amazing.
Yeah, but I was just at that moment in time. I think I was really. That was when I went out there and got all geeked on the Miro paintings and stuff like that. So I was just starting to figure shit out. But yeah, I just remember how magical that felt to see that show. It really was deeply inspiring. I liked it a lot. Yeah.
All right.
So. Yeah. Well, we'll keep him in for now.
Okay, but, I like that.
But I was actually going to switch out Sargent to Monet.
Oh, I
wanted
love
to
Monet
hear
too.
What people think of Monet.
Yeah, I'm a huge Monet fan. I mean,
Monet.
Yeah. I mean, he was my favorite painter for a period of time.
Oh, was he?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think of all the Impressionists, and I like a lot of Impressionist painting, or at least I did. I definitely went through a period where, like, every time I went to a museum, I was just like Impressionism, you know. And I mean, I think Monet's kind of the king of the Impressionists, you know. I mean, there's some like people that have their own flavor that are cool, but fuck, I mean, the way Monet put the colors together to create that illusion and just the effortlessness of it and the breadth of his work was pretty fucking badass. I really like Monet a lot.
Oh yeah.
It wasn't until I saw the De Young show that just came through that I understood like the complexity of the color that he's laying on top of each other. Like, I've seen other people kind of take that and run with it, but to see like where it came from, basically,
yeah,
pretty much a revelation there.
Yeah, I mean, you can't get it from a picture. You have to like get up close to it and see the constituent parts,
especially like a 8-foot painting.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's pretty badass. And you know what? Now when I go to a museum, I never look at them. I'm like over impressionism.
Yeah,
fuck impressionism.
But still, you'll still see the Monet.
Yeah. I went to the De Young and saw the Gauguin exhibit.
Okay.
I'm a huge Gauguin fan, but that exhibit was not very impressive. It was like a lot of his early work, you know what I mean?
Okay.
So it was a lot of pretty generic looking, like French landscape kind of stuff.
Oh, okay.
And very little of the Tahitian stuff, which is like my favorite. I love that too.
I see. Next name is Van Gogh.
I mean, you're just going to hear me say nothing but great stuff. I was in Amsterdam. I went to Van Gogh's museum. It was fucking amazing. When I was a kid, my mom took me to LACMA for a Van Gogh exhibit, or maybe it was an Impressionist exhibit and there was Van Gogh paintings in there, but I saw water lilies, and that was like the first time I ever went to a museum and came home and was like, I want to be an artist. And I very specifically remember that the Van Gogh work was the stuff that like really got me hyped up. And when I went to Amsterdam, I went to the Van Gogh museum, which is, in my estimation, the most powerful experience I've had. And, you know, I had read a biography it's called Vincent Van Gogh, A Life. And he was just a spectacular human. I mean, there's very few people ever that have been like Van Gogh. He was, you know, I mean, how can you even sum it up? He was a very, very, very compassionate, empathic person that really dedicated. I mean, he spent like years working in the coal mines as he had initially was going to be a man of the clergy or cloth. I don't know how you say it, but he basically went and lived with all these incredibly poor people and these squalid conditions. And he really was dedicated to trying giving to people who had difficulties. And then, of course, you know, he goes on to become a painter. We all know he goes crazy, et cetera, et cetera. But the crazy thing about Van Gogh, man, is his brother was the leading art dealer in Paris, in the leading art city in the fucking world. Arguably, his brother was the leading art dealer in the world. And despite that, he sold one fucking painting in his entire life. One painting.
Underachiever.
Yeah, right? I mean, but that's the crazy thing. The real reality of it is what an overachiever, because it's like to have people telling you your art sucks when you're fucking so far ahead of the game, you know, and to have your brother be in that position and for him not even to be able to sell fucking one of your works, you know, it's like, how deflating must that be? And for him to stick in there and paint with that kind of passion and ferocity and abandon and not giving a fuck and not doing it for anybody else. And even when people say what you're doing is bullshit, he still kept doing it and he doubled down on it. And he was like, double barrel, fuck you guys. I'm fucking doing what I want to do. And I have tremendous respect for Van Gogh. Tremendous respect for Van Gogh. Yeah.
Right on.
That was an awesome answer.
Yeah.
Thanks. So I'm not, I just, like I said, you keep throwing them out. I'll tell you how much I love them all.
Yeah. I think the next one, Frida Kahlo.
The next one is Queen.
Frida.
Queen, yeah.
I mean, Frida's complex because, you know, we all know how tremendously played out Frida has become.
Yeah.
And, you know, we go to Mexico City fairly often because my wife's family lives down there. So I had the blessing of seeing a bunch of her paintings back probably in sometime in the 90s at this museum, Dolores Olmeda Patiño. Do you know about that? It's a famous art patron who was actually a mistress of Diego Rivera, and she had a massive art collection. So she has a really beautiful museum in Mexico City on these palatial grounds with peacocks and Mexican hairless dogs, and it's really cool museum, and it's got a lot of Diego and Frida, and I was always a huge Diego fan, and yeah, I mean, I don't know, I know it sucks that Frida became so played out, because the truth is Frida was a really badass person, and I really related to the directness of her work. And how, once again, it's an artist who wasn't really thinking of their place on the big stage. Like Diego was famous and he was always working his magic in relationship to his fame. But that never even occurred to Frida. She didn't even really consider herself to be, you know, to hold a candle to Diego. And as she said as much multiple times, you know, that her painting was personal. It wasn't about showing off or being famous or having this titanic career. It was just a very personal act. And in that sense, and of course she was sitting on top of such profound pain. And so it's a shame that it's become so over commercialized. It really takes away from how, I think, just vulnerable and honest. And, you know, I don't know. I like Frida a lot. And, you know, I don't know if you can see that painting I made of my wife over there, but I definitely went, early on, I definitely went through a phase where I was like, Frida's work seemed accessible to me because she doesn't pull a lot of technical punches. It's very easy to understand. So I definitely mimicked her in a few paintings on my way to trying to figure things out.
It's interesting how sometimes the popularity of an art form can devalue it or change your opinion. You know, it's like a pop song or a song that like becomes played out on the radio.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's like, I like the song, but then you guys ruined it.
Yeah.
It's like an outside force causing an opinion of the art, you know, and like your opinion of the art based off of outside influence. It's always interesting when that happens.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
I can see that with Monet happening.
I mean, all these artists you're naming are, you know, are all artists who can be put in that category. You know?
Sure.
And, you know, it almost becomes uncool to say that you like them.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
You know, but I do. I like them all.
I think the next one is Picasso.
Yeah.
Hit a brick wall.
You know, I wouldn't call it a brick wall, but semi-malleable wall. You know, Picasso was, I guess he's an acquired taste. I mean, I respect the fact that he supposedly mastered realism at the age of 16, which is actually bullshit. If you've ever seen any of his paintings from 16, they're really not that fucking good.
Right.
I mean, they're good for a 16-year-old, but not for a fully realized artist.
Correct.
And so, you know, I mean, I think that painting Guernica is a very amazing painting, which was about a very serious real life thing that happened. You guys know the story behind all that, how Franco he teamed up with Hitler and the Nazi planes bombed this Catalan town, Guernica, in southern Spain, and basically just killed all the inhabitants. You know, they're like running out of their homes, and the Nazi planes are like just fucking gunning them down. So it's all about just a massacre. And the reason Franco did that before he had a falling out with Hitler was just so he can instill fear in the separatists. You know, it's the same. Spain's been going through the same shit forever. You know, you've got like all these sort of like semi-separatist regions, and then Franco was trying to basically whip them into shape, which is what the Spanish Civil War was about. And so, that's just a really powerful image. Like when you really know where it came from and you see it and the expressions and what it's about, it's like, wow, it's intense. But overall, I kind of think that Picasso, I don't know, it's not my favorite. And you know, I'll just throw this in there too. I'm not a huge, and people always ask this because they'll be like, what kind of painting do you do? And I'll be like, I guess you could call it surrealism. And their follow-up question every time is, do you like Dali?
Next name.
It is.
Might as well jump into it.
Well, good. I'd love to, man, because I went to his museum in Spain and I was never so fucking bored in my life, man. I was not impressed. I mean, and maybe I'm just saying that because so many people think that Dali is like the fucking shit. And I mean, when I was in college, I had a poster of his up in my room, and I guess it was age appropriate, but I just don't really know what all the hype is about. And you know, he made a really cool animated film with Walt Disney. I remember that about the museum. That was one of my
I do
points.
remember that.
It's a beautiful film, and they saw it on the big screen. It was very sort of like encompassing, but a lot of the work was just like, God, I'm just so fucking sick of this museum. Get me out of here.
Right. I think it goes back to what we were talking about earlier. When you're like young, you have like this idea of what good art is, and you kind of outgrow it.
Yeah,
exactly.
And I think he's one of those artists that I feel that way about, is like you kind of just outgrow it. And then it doesn't make sense to you in a weird way. You're like, I don't see what's so special about it.
Right.
Yeah, I think, you know, it gets back to that time and place thing. Maybe what he was doing was very edgy and you know, daring at the time, but now it doesn't seem like any of his ideas are that pushing the envelope all that much. Obviously it's been 70 years or so, however long it's been.
I think even pushing the envelope isn't necessarily the best way to think about when you're creating art, or isn't the best thing to think about. I think pushing the envelope is very much just to be on the forefront of things, but that can waver. I think more having like a universal idea or something like that is
I agree.
So much more like useful and so much more timeless, even though I'm not thinking about timelessness, but I think it connects to human beings over time rather than just being like, look at my new fucking edgy thing that no one else is doing.
Right.
I think it's a bad pursuit. I think you can tell a story that's universal in a new way.
Yeah.
I just think trying to be on the forefront is it ends up being what we're talking about, like about being fresh and cool of the time. But when you look at it 100 years later, it kind of reads dated and not anything worth, I don't know.
Right. It lacks content or intention or something.
Yeah. It's over. It's like you did something, but now it doesn't do anything for anyone today because of that, because you were so focused on being on the forefront of whatever is new.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah. It's like a false obsession that's kind of leading you away from the truth of your your statement.
Exactly. It's a trick in a weird way, you know?
Yeah. Right. And if the truth of your statement entails like pushing the envelope or unintentionally pushes the envelope, then that's the real shit, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On that note, the next name is Jackson Pollock.
Don't do me like
We
this.
don't want no static. No, I think I prefer Ed Harris playing Jackson Pollock to Jackson Pollock.
Yeah.
Let's just leave it at that.
All right.
Hell yeah.
Brilliant performance.
Brilliant. I'd give that performance a 10.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Next name is I think Shepherd Fairy. I think is the name.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Shepherd Fairy is. I mean, he's cool. I don't know. I understand the critiques against him and why some people feel that he's sort of like overblown or a little bit, or that his artwork is derivative of other components. I mean, he's a very good designer. I think he's an excellent designer, and I think that just his Obama image alone had a gigantic impact on the world. So I think if you were trying to look at impact of an artist, I think that the argument could be made that he was a tremendously impactful artist. I don't hate him or love him. I'm neither here nor there, but I don't love that sort of brand of street art in general. Yeah. So I don't really know. I'm going to be ambivalent on Shepherd Fairy.
All right. I almost forgot Mark Rothko.
Yeah, Rothko's cool. Yeah, I learned about him from watching that Simon Schama video.
Okay.
And learned that, he struggled for most of his life, and he was like quite old when older when he finally got his breakthrough. And he got offered to have his paintings in the Four Seasons. You know about this shit? They offered it. It's like, it was the equivalent. I want to say it was like the equivalent of like $7 million today or something, some ridiculous amount.
Okay.
And he went to the Four Seasons to eat, and he just thought it was a bunch of fucking pretentious rich people. And he was like, fuck you guys, you're not getting my paintings. So I thought that was pretty badass that he did that.
Nice.
Yeah.
Respect.
Yeah, respect, exactly.
Yeah, now his paintings are worth way more than that.
Yeah, I mean, but back then, it's like
Right.
after having struggled all his life for, anyways.
Yeah. Last name is Bob Ross.
I mean, Bob Ross is cool. I used to also watch that German guy. Did you ever see that guy?
Oh, yeah. What's his name?
I don't know, but he was.
Hans?
I actually discovered.
Yeah.
The truth is, I discovered
It probably
him
was
first.
Hans, I think. Yeah.
When I was
'Cause
a kid.
He was like the precursor to Bob Ross.
Oh, he was? Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Yeah, because I discovered him when I was a kid, and I was super into that.
Yeah.
And then it just transitioned to Bob Ross, and I was like,
Right.
what happened to that German dude?
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
But I used to make Bob Ross like paintings in my.
Yeah.
I went and bought the starter painting set, and I just set up my easel in my living room. When I grew up, my mom and my sister and I, we lived in this little 1-bedroom house, and it was like the house behind a house that like the
Granny unit?
the granny unit or something like
uh-huh.
that. Yeah. So it was in like a nice neighborhood, but it was just this little tiny house that we all lived in. And it was so cool, man. I just loved being in a small space. I slept on the pull-out couch, and my mom and sister slept in the bed. And that was the era when I used to do my painting. And I just remember, I have these fond memories of like setting up in the living room, and my mom and my sister being there and working on my paintings. And when you live in a small place, you can't get away from each other.
Yeah.
And that was really fucking dope. I loved that.
It's good and bad.
Yeah, it's good and bad. If you get along with the people, it's could be good.
Yeah.
Everyone needs their alone time.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, so it worked out.
Is that everyone?
That's everyone.
That's the whole list, huh?
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
We did it.
Last question.
Nobody in your family is been diagnosed with being on crack or nothing like that.
No, never. Never.
Well, that's the end of my question.
What happens when someone's like, yeah?
Yeah.
And then
Well,
you're
that's a
like,
good
"Oh,
story.
Well, sorry for bringing those
Well, let's hear
memories up."
Yeah. I know, seriously.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for doing this, Leon.
Yeah, my pleasure.
been
Absolutely,
awesome.
my pleasure. Can I just remind everyone that September 6th,
Absolutely, yeah.
This is my
September
show.
6th
Yeah.
at
September
111
6th.
Minna
111 Minna, which
here in
is
San Fran.
the address of the gallery is the name of the gallery,
Yep.
so you shouldn't have any trouble finding it.
Smart.
Hell yeah.
And it should be fun.
Yeah, the pieces are awesome.
Thank you.
I'm really stoked on your work right now.
Thanks.
I think it's great. And the direction you're going is awesome.
Yeah, I agree.
Appreciate it.
I can't wait to see it up. I'm definitely going to be there.
for sure.
Probably drunk.
Yeah, that's cool. I hope so.
Yeah, and if anyone wants to find your Instagram,
Loucheur.
Direct, all Queen related.
Yeah, at Loucheur.
yeah, you're about to get so many fucking videos like, hey, you seen this? You're about to be rickrolled with a bunch of.
I hope so. I hope so.
Awesome, and we'll shout you out so people can find you.
Okay.
Thank you so much, buddy. For doing this.
Absolutely. My pleasure. Thank you guys. Had a lot of fun.
All right, this has been Waiting Dry. If you're still listening, fuck off.
Peace.